Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to the channel. This is my new channel, so please support us. Now let's start today's story on what if Harry Potter summoned his parents' spirits to put Dumbledore on trial. But before we begin, comment 2 blue hearts, be sure to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. Also, watch till the end because this story is going to be amazing. And don't forget to check out our Patreon for exclusive Harry x Hermione uncensored spicy versions, link is in the description. Now, let's begin the story.
Chapter 2, The Will of House Potter. The morning after his parents returned from death, Harry Potter walked through the corridors of Hogwarts like a different person. It wasn't something he could articulate, not the set of his shoulders or the pace of his stride or even the expression on his face. But students moved out of his way without thinking about it, the way water parts around stone. Something had shifted in the air around him, some invisible charge that made people glance twice and then look away. James walked beside him, invisible to everyone else for now. They'd discovered that the spirits could choose who perceived them, a function of the stone's magic that Lily had worked out within the first hour. She was still in the room of requirement, buried in books she'd asked Harry to retrieve from the restricted section the night before. Harry hadn't even needed the invisibility cloak. He'd walked in, pulled what he needed, and walked out. Madame Pants had been asleep at her desk, which never happened, and Harry suspected his mother had something to do with it. "Left here," James said. "There's a passage behind the tapestry of Barnabas the Barmy, well, you know that one, it leads to the room. But if you tap the third stone from the bottom on the opposite wall, there's an older passage. Goes all the way down to the entry hall." "How do you know passages I haven't found on the map?" Harry asked under his breath. "Because your father and his friends were arrogant enough to think they'd found everything, and humble enough to only put what they'd personally verified on the map. I walked these halls for 7 years, Harry. Some things you learn with your feet, not your wand." Harry tapped the stone. The wall shimmered and a narrow passage opened, smelling of dust and old air. He stepped through and the wall sealed behind him. "Dad." "Yeah. Where are we actually going?" James's spirit form flickered slightly, the equivalent of a grin. "Gringotts. But first, we need to get out of the castle without Dumbledore knowing. And that means we need to have a conversation with a house elf." Dobby appeared with a crack so enthusiastic it echoed off the passage walls. "Harry Potter calls Dobby." "Dobby is," the elf's enormous eyes went wide. He could see James. Of course he could. House elves saw magic that wizards couldn't, perceived bonds and auras and the threads that connected souls. Dobby's tennis ball eyes filled with tears. "Master Potter. The old Master Potter." "Hey there," James said gently. "Dobby, right? Harry's told me about you. You're a free elf who chose to serve my son out of love. That makes you family, as far as I'm concerned." Dobby burst into heaving sobs that Harry had to physically muffle with his hand, crouching down to the elf's level. "Dobby, I need your help. I need to get to Diagon Alley without anyone in this castle knowing I've left. Can you apparate me out?" Dobby's tears stopped instantly, replaced by fierce determination. "Dobby can take Harry Potter anywhere. Hogwarts wards cannot stop a free elf acting on love. Dobby will take Harry Potter." "That's the loophole," James said, admiration in his voice. "A bonded elf can't leave without their master's permission. But a free elf who serves voluntarily? The wards read them differently. Hogwarts was built to keep enemies out and students in, but it never accounted for a free elf's choice." Harry took Dobby's hand. "Diagon Alley. The alley behind the leaky cauldron." The crack of disapparition was swallowed by the stone around them, and then Harry was standing in grey London drizzle, the smell of wet brick and old magic replacing the castle's dry warmth. James materialized beside him, visible now. They'd decided on visibility for Gringotts. A spirit of a dead wizard filing a claim was unusual, but goblins respected unusual. They respected power. "You good?" James asked. Harry rolled his shoulders, feeling the resurrection stone warm against his chest where he'd strung it on a chain. I'm good. Let's go get what's mine. Gringotts hadn't changed. The white marble pillars still rose toward an overcast sky, the bronze doors still gleamed with that particular goblin-made sheen that said we were here before you and will be here after. The goblins at the entrance stiffened when they saw Harry approach, stiffened further when they saw the translucent figure beside him, and then went very, very still when they seemed to sense what Harry was carrying. The stone, James murmured. They can feel it. Goblin-made items resonate with goblin senses, and the Hallows are older than goblin craft. It's like walking and carrying a star. Should I be worried? No. Goblins respect power. They'll deal with us fairly because it would be stupid not to. They passed through the bronze doors, through the silver doors with their warning engraved in verse, and into the vast marble hall beyond. Every goblin in sight had stopped working. Quills hovered mid-scratch. Coins hung in mid-count. 100 dark eyes tracked Harry's progress toward the high counter at the far end. Harry didn't slow down. Didn't hunch his shoulders or shove his hands in his pockets or do any of the things he'd done on previous visits, when he'd been an 11-year-old orphan clutching a key he didn't understand. He walked straight to the head teller and looked up at the goblin without flinching. I'm Harry James Potter, he said. Heir to the House of Potter, holder of the Peveril ring, and I'm here to claim my full inheritance. I'd like to speak with the Potter account manager. The silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then the head teller, an ancient goblin with a scar running from temple to jaw, smiled. Not a friendly smile. A satisfied smile. The smile of someone who'd been waiting for something to happen. Ironclaw has been expecting you for 4 years, Mr. Potter, the goblin said. Or rather, he's been expecting you to become someone worth expecting. Follow me. The office they were led to wasn't the cramped, functional space Harry had imagined. It was large, warmly lit by floating crystals, with walls lined in ledgers and documents that pulsed with faint preservation charms. Behind a desk of black wood sat a goblin who looked younger than most Harry had seen, sharp-featured, with pale eyes that missed nothing. Harry Potter, Ironclaw said, not rising. And the spirit of James Charles Potter, sustained by what appears to be the resurrection stone of Cadmus Peveril. Sit. Harry sat. James remained standing, or floating, rather, his feet a half-inch above the ground in a way he didn't seem to notice. I'll be direct, Ironclaw said. Your accounts have been managed in trust since your parents' death. Albus Dumbledore declared himself your magical guardian in November of 1981, 3 days after the events at Godric's Hollow. He presented documentation to this bank suggesting he had legal authority over the Potter estate until you reached majority. He didn't, James said flatly. Ironclaw's pale eyes flicked to the spirit. No. He didn't. Your will, Mr. Potter, was sealed by order of the Wisengamot, also 3 days after your death, also at Dumbledore's request. The stated reason was national security concerns related to the defeat of he who must not be named. Gringotts protested. We were overruled. Wizarding law, as you know, takes precedence over goblin authority in matters of human estate. What did our will say? James asked. His voice was quiet. Controlled. Harry had known his father less than 12 hours and he already recognized that tone as dangerous. Ironclaw opened a drawer and produced a thick envelope sealed with wax, the Potter family crest. We kept a copy. Goblins always keep copies. He slid it across the desk. You may break the seal, Mr. Potter. Either of you. Harry looked at his father. James nodded. Harry reached for the envelope. The wax cracked under his thumb and he felt a pulse of magic, recognition, warmth, home. The parchment inside was yellowed but perfectly preserved, covered in his mother's neat handwriting and his father's sprawling signature. Harry read it aloud, his voice steady despite the crawling fury building in his chest. We, James Charles Potter and Lily Marie Potter née Evans, being of sound mind and magical capacity, do hereby declare our last will and testament. In the event of our deaths, guardianship of our son, Harry James Potter, shall pass in the following order: first, to Sirius Orion Black, his godfather; second, to Alice and Frank Longbottom; third, to Remus John Lupin; fourth, to Amelia Susan Bones. Harry paused. His voice hardened. Under no circumstances shall Harry be placed with Petunia Desley née Evans or her family. Under no circumstances shall Albus Dumbledore be granted guardianship or magical authority over our son or our estate. We make this stipulation freely and without coercion. The silence in the office was absolute. He knew, Harry said. He read this. He must have read this, because he sealed it. And then he put me there anyway. Harry, James started. He knew you didn't want me there, and he put me there anyway, and he sealed your will so no one could challenge him, and, Harry's magic crackled. The crystals on the wall flickered. Ironclaw's papers rustled in a wind that wasn't there. Harry. James's voice cut through, not harsh but firm. I know. Believe me, I know. But right now, in this room, you have to be cold. You have to be the head of House Potter. You can be angry later. Right now, be smart. Harry breathed. In, out. The crackling stopped. The crystals steadied. Right, Harry said. He looked at Ironclaw. What else has he done? Ironclaw's smile was all teeth. I thought you'd never ask. He pulled a ledger from beneath his desk, thick, bound in dragon hide, marked with the Potter crest. Shall we begin with the unauthorized withdrawals, or the redirected investment income, or the properties he placed under Fidelius without your authorization? All of it, Harry said. Everything. 2 hours later, Harry had a picture of his inheritance that made him want to put his fist through the wall. The Potter fortune was vast, old money, goblin invested, compounding for generations. His trust vault, the one he'd accessed since age 11, represented less than 1% of the total holdings. The rest had been locked away under Dumbledore's authority as magical guardian. Withdrawals had been made, not enormous ones, nothing that would draw attention, but regular. Monthly payments to a vault registered to the Order of the Phoenix Operating Fund. Payments to Mundungus Fletcher. Payments to Arabella Figg, Harry's neighbor on Privet Drive, the one who'd watched him for years and never once intervened. He paid her, Harry said, staring at the numbers. He paid my neighbor to watch me be miserable and never do anything about it. Surveillance, not care, Lily said. She'd appeared in the last half hour, having apparently worked out how to travel to Harry's location through the Stones connection. She stood behind Harry's chair, one hand resting near, not quite on, his shoulder. He needed to know you were alive. He didn't need you to be happy. The properties, James said to Ironclaw. Show him. Ironclaw spread a map across the desk, magical, self-updating, with glowing dots representing Potter-owned land. There were a dozen properties. Homes, land, a small island off the coast of Wales. All of them had been placed under Fidelius or sealed by Dumbledore's authority. Potter Manor, James said, pointing to a dot in the Cotswolds. That's our ancestral home. 300 acres, layered with wards going back 6 centuries. Dumbledore had it sealed after our deaths. Claimed it was too dangerous, possible Death Eater target. It wasn't, Lily said. The wards at Potter Manor are blood-based. Only a Potter can enter. Death Eaters couldn't have touched it. He didn't want you to have somewhere safe to go, James said to Harry. Somewhere that wasn't Privet Drive. Somewhere that wasn't under his control. Harry stared at the map. All those homes. All those places he could have grown up. All those years on Privet Drive in a cupboard under the stairs, and his family owned a manor. Ironclaw, Harry said. I want to claim my full inheritance. Today. Right now. You're 15, Ironclaw said. Under wizarding law, you cannot claim majority until 17. Emancipation, Lily said sharply. Section 47 of the Magical Minors Act of 1847. A minor who has faced a life-threatening magical trial without the intervention or protection of their magical guardian can petition for early emancipation. Harry has faced Voldemort. Ironclaw flinched minutely at the name, 4 times. Once as an infant, once at 11, once at 12 with the basilisk, and once at 14 in a graveyard. On none of those occasions did Dumbledore intervene to protect him. If anything, the school environment Dumbledore controlled directly led to the encounters. Ironclaw looked at Lily with what might have been respect. You've done your research. I've had 14 years with nothing to do but watch and think, Lily said. Her voice could have frozen the Thames. There's another avenue, Ironclaw said slowly. The Peveril claim. Mr. Potter is carrying the Resurrection Stone, a Peveril heirloom. If he can prove direct descent, he can claim the Peveril lordship. That lordship predates the Magical Minors Act by 800 years. Ancient houses operate under different rules. A Peveril lord cannot be considered a minor under any wizarding law, because the Peveril Charter predates the concept of magical minority. James and Lily exchanged a look. The descent is provable, James said. Potter to Peveril goes back to Iolanthe Peveril in the 13th century. It's in the family grimoire. Which is in the family vault, Ironclaw said. Which you now have access to, Mr. Potter. Dumbledore's authority as magical guardian extends to the trust vault and the investment accounts. He never had authority over the blood vault. That requires a Potter by blood, and he never brought you here to claim it. Of course he didn't, Harry muttered. Shall I take you down? Ironclaw asked. Fair warning, it's deep. Deeper than the Lestrange vault, deeper than the Black vault. The Potter blood vault is one of the oldest in this bank. The ride is unpleasant. Harry stood. Let's go. The cart ride was worse than unpleasant. It was a screaming, twisting descent into the earth that lasted nearly 10 minutes, plunging past the dragon-guarded high-security vaults, past layers of rock that glowed with embedded minerals, down into darkness so absolute that even the cart's lantern seemed dimmed. The air grew cold, then warm, then cold again, cycling with the magic layers they passed through. Ironclaw sat perfectly still in the front of the cart, unaffected. Harry gripped the edges and refused to close his eyes. James and Lily drifted alongside the cart as if the physical laws of the journey didn't apply to them, which they didn't. The cart stopped. The vault door was unlike anything Harry had seen in Gringotts. It wasn't gold or bronze or iron. It was stone, ancient, grey, carved with symbols that predated English. A single depression in the center of the door, shaped like a handprint. Blood and magic, Ironclaw said. Press your hand to the door. If the vault accepts you, it opens. If it doesn't. He shrugged expressively. Harry walked to the door. The stone was warm under his palm, surprisingly warm, like pressing his hand against a living thing. He felt a pulse travel up his arm, through his chest, and settle somewhere behind his ribs. The symbols on the door flared white, then gold, then settled into a deep, steady amber glow. The door swung open. Inside wasn't a vault in any sense Harry understood. It was a room, a proper room, with shelves and tables and stands, everything organized with the precision of a museum. But what drew Harry's eye immediately was the suit of armor on a stand in the center, the sword resting beside it, and the thick leather-bound book on a pedestal under a glass dome. The family grimoire, James said, his voice thick with something Harry couldn't name. Nostalgia, maybe. Loss. My father showed me this vault when I turned 11. Said I'd bring my own son here one day. I always thought I'd have time. You're here now, Harry said quietly. James flickered. A smile. Yeah. I am. Harry crossed to the grimoire. The glass dome dissolved at his touch, keyed to Potter blood, of course, and the book fell open in his hands. The pages were thin as onion skin but strong as leather, covered in writing that shifted languages as he watched. Old English to Latin to something runic and ancient. Page 47, Lily said. She was examining the shelves along the wall, pulling out scrolls and unrolling them in midair. The Peveril descent is recorded there. We'll need it for the emancipation claim. Harry flipped to the page. There it was, a family tree rendered in ink that still looked wet, spreading back through centuries. Potter, Peveril, names he didn't recognize, all connected by lines of gold. His own name sat at the bottom, glowing faintly. There, James said, pointing. Iolanthe Peveril married Hardwin Potter in 1292. Direct descent. Unbroken line. And look, he pointed to a notation beside Iolanthe's name. She brought the cloak into the family. The invisibility cloak. It's been ours since the 13th century. A Peveril heirloom held by the Potter line. I have the cloak, Harry said. I have the stone. That's 2 of 3. James went very still. 2 of 3. Harry, do you know what happens when someone holds all 3 hallows? Master of Death, Harry said. I've read the story. It's not a story, James said. Look, we'll deal with that later. Right now, we need the grimoire and the descent proof. Take what you need. Harry lifted the grimoire, it was lighter than it should have been, warm against his arms like a living creature, and turned to survey the rest of the vault. Gold, yes, piles of it. Galleons beyond counting. But also artifacts, weapons, jewelry, and, is that a pensieve? Harry asked, pointing to a shallow stone basin on a shelf. The Potter pensieve, James confirmed. Old. Powerful. Unlike Dumbledore's borrowed one, this is keyed to Potter blood. Only a Potter can view memories stored in it, and it can store memories from the dead, if they're willing and the magic is strong enough. Meaning you can put your memories in it, Harry said slowly. Your memories of what Dumbledore did. Of what you saw while you were dead, watching. James and Lily looked at each other again, and this time Harry could read the look perfectly. It was the look of 2 people who'd been waiting for someone to catch up to a plan they'd already laid. We can testify before the Wisengamot as spirits, Lily said. But memories in a pensieve are admissible as evidence under the Magical Evidence Act of 1753. Unalterable in a blood-keyed pensieve. If we can show the court exactly what Harry's life was like, not words, not testimony that can be picked apart, but raw memory, Dumbledore can't argue with that, Harry finished. He can try, James said grimly. He'll try. The man argues with gravity and sometimes wins. But we're not going to give him room to maneuver. Here's what we're going to do, Harry. We're going to claim the Peveril lordship today, right now, in this bank, with Ironclaw as witness. That emancipates you. Then we're going to file a formal challenge to Dumbledore's guardianship through the Wisengamot, not a complaint, a challenge. Under the old laws, a wrongfully claimed guardianship is legally equivalent to kidnapping. And kidnapping a lord of an ancient and noble house is a capital crime, Ironclaw said from the doorway. He'd been listening, and his smile was the widest and most genuine Harry had seen on any goblin. It carries a sentence of life in Azkaban or forfeiture of all magical titles and properties. For Albus Dumbledore, that would mean, everything, Harry said. He'd lose everything. Yes, James said. And he deserves to. The Peveril claiming ritual was simple in execution and staggering in effect. Harry stood in a ritual circle that Ironclaw inscribed on the vault floor, ancient goblin runes interleaved with the Peveril symbols from the vault door. He held the resurrection stone in one hand and the grimoire in the other, open to the page of descent. James and Lily stood at the edges of the circle, their spirit forms providing the witness of blood that the ritual required. Speak your claim, Ironclaw said. I am Harry James Potter, son of James, son of Charles, son of Fleamont, of the line of Hardwin, who wed Iolanthe of the house of Peveril. I hold the stone of Cadmus. I hold the cloak of Ignotus. By blood and by artifact, I claim the lordship of House Peveril. I claim the rights, the responsibilities, and the protections of my line. The circle blazed. Not with heat, with recognition. The same pulse Harry had felt at the door, but 1,000-fold stronger, roaring up through his body like a river finding its course. The grimoire's pages fluttered wildly. The resurrection stone grew hot, then cold, then settled into a perfect equilibrium against his skin. When the light faded, Harry felt different. Not more powerful, exactly, more present. More real. As if he'd been slightly out of focus his entire life and someone had finally adjusted the lens. On his right hand, a ring had appeared. Not the damaged ring that held the stone, something new. Silver, ancient, set with a black stone carved with the Peveril mark. The Deathly Hallows symbol. It fit perfectly. "It's done," Ironclaw said. He was looking at Harry with that pale-eyed gaze, and for the first time, there was something in it that went beyond professional interest. Something almost like awe. Lord Peveril. The first in 800 years. That title, Lily said carefully, carries a seat on the Wizengamot. 2 seats, Ironclaw corrected. Peveril and Potter both carry hereditary seats. You are lord of 2 ancient and noble houses, Mr. Potter. When you walk into that courtroom, you walk in as an equal to every person sitting in judgment. Harry looked down at the ring on his hand. Then he looked at his parents, at his father's fierce pride, his mother's sharp satisfaction. Ironclaw, Harry said. I need to send an owl. Actually, I need to send several. The bank provides messenger services for our lordship clients. Whom do you wish to contact? Amelia Bones, head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. Sirius Black, I'll need a secure method for that one. And... Harry paused. Augusta Longbottom. She's a member of the Wizengamot, and she was friends with my grandparents, wasn't she? She was, James said approvingly. Sharp, Harry. Very sharp. Augusta won't say no to helping the Potter heir, especially when she hears what Dumbledore did. The Longbottoms were named in our will, she'll take that personally. And one more, Harry said. The Daily Prophet. I want Rita Skeeter. That earned him surprised looks from both parents. She's horrible, Lily said. She's effective, Harry countered. And she hates Dumbledore. And she owes Hermione a favor, or rather, Hermione has enough on her to make her cooperate. If we're doing this, we're doing it publicly. No sealed proceedings, no quiet deals in Dumbledore's office. I want everyone to know. James laughed, a sharp, delighted sound. Merlin. Lily, he's got your ruthlessness. He's got your dramatic flair, Lily shot back, but she was smiling. Fine. Skeeter. But we control the narrative. She prints what we give her, no embellishment, or Hermione releases whatever she has. Deal, Harry said. He turned to Ironclaw. One more thing. I want to formally revoke Albus Dumbledore's access to all Potter accounts, effective immediately. Any standing payments are to be halted. Any properties under his Fidelius are to be challenged. I understand goblins can break a Fidelius given sufficient cause. With the account holder's permission and a valid legal challenge, yes, Ironclaw said. It takes time. But it can be done. Do it. And Ironclaw, I want a full accounting of every Canute Dumbledore has moved out of my vaults. Where it went, when, and to whom. I want documentation that will hold up in court. It will be ready within 48 hours, Ironclaw said. He stood and extended his hand, a gesture Harry had never seen a goblin make to a wizard. Lord Potter Peveril. It has been a long time since a wizard walked into this bank and demanded what was rightfully his. Gringotts will support your claim. Not out of charity, your accounts are worth protecting, and a wrongfully claimed guardianship threatens the integrity of every vault in this institution. Harry shook the goblin's hand. Thank you, Ironclaw. Don't thank me. Pay my fees and win your case. That will be thanks enough. They emerged from Gringotts into afternoon light that seemed too bright, too ordinary for what had just happened. Harry stood on the white steps and breathed London air and felt the weight of the ring on his finger, the grimoire shrunk and stored in his pocket, and the knowledge of exactly what he was sitting in his chest like a coal. We need to get back to Hogwarts, Lily said. Before anyone notices you're gone. Actually, Harry said, I need to do something first. He walked down the steps and turned left, heading for Ollivander's. His parents drifted after him, visible only to him now. They'd agreed to stay hidden until the formal reveal. Harry? James asked. My wand shares a core with Voldemort's, Harry said over his shoulder. It's always going to be a liability. If I'm Lord Peverell, I should have a wand that matches. Ollivander will know what to do. He won't sell you a second wand, Lily said. Ministry regulations, 1 wand per wizard. Ministry regulations apply to ordinary wizards, Harry said. I'm a lord of 2 ancient houses with an active threat on my life and a legal challenge pending against the most powerful wizard in Britain. Let's see Ollivander tell me no. He pushed open the door of the wand shop. The bell tinkled. Dust motes swirled in the dim light. Mr. Potter, said Ollivander from the shadows, because of course he knew. Or should I say, Lord Potter Peverell. I felt the claiming from here. Remarkable. Truly remarkable. Mr. Ollivander, Harry said. I need a second wand. One that doesn't share a core with Voldemort. The old wand maker emerged from behind a shelf, his silver eyes luminous in the gloom. The law won't apply by tomorrow, Harry said. I'm filing for emancipation and lordship recognition through the Wisengamot. A lord has the right to carry as many foci as he can master. That's in the old codes, 1307, I believe. Ollivander's eyes went wide. Not with surprise, with delight. 1309, actually. Lord Peverell. Come. I think I have something that's been waiting rather a long time for you. He disappeared into the back of the shop. Harry waited. James appeared beside him, looking around the shop with naked curiosity. He'd only been here once, for his own wand fitting, and clearly the place still fascinated him. Ollivander returned carrying not a boxed wand, but a long case of black wood, unvarnished, plain. He set it on the counter and opened it. Inside, resting on faded velvet, was a wand unlike any Harry had seen in this shop. It was dark wood, nearly black, with a grain that seemed to shift and move like living shadow. Longer than his holly wand by an inch, slightly thicker, with no decoration except a single band of silver at the base. Elder wood, Ollivander said softly. Thestral tail hair core. 13.5 inches. I made this wand 40 years ago, and it has never chosen a wizard. It has refused every wizard who's touched it, violently, in some cases. I kept it because I knew, someday, it would find its match. Harry reached for it. The moment his fingers closed around the dark wood, the shop exploded with light. Not the gentle warmth of his holly wand's choosing, this was a thunderclap, a declaration, a roar of power that rattled every box on every shelf and sent wands cascading to the floor in a clattering waterfall. Harry felt the wand's magic surge up his arm and merge with his own, not gently but fiercely, like 2 rivers meeting. When the light faded, Harry was standing in the middle of a devastated shop, holding a wand that hummed with barely contained power, and Ollivander was on the floor, staring at him with tears streaming down his face. Magnificent, the wand maker breathed. Truly magnificent. The brother wand to the elder wand itself, elder wood, thestral hair, made by my hand but designed by fate. It has been waiting for the master of death. I'm not, Harry started. 2 of 3 Hallows, Ollivander said, climbing to his feet. And a wand that resonates with the third. You are closer than anyone has been in 1,000 years, Lord Peveril. Be careful. Be very careful. Harry slid the new wand into an arm holster that Ollivander produced from somewhere. A gift, my lord, please, I insist, and paid 12 galleons for the wand itself. Ollivander tried to refuse payment. Harry insisted. He wasn't going to start taking things for free just because he had a title. Tell no one about this purchase, Harry said at the door. Not yet. Of course not, Ollivander said. A wand maker's discretion is absolute. But Lord Peveril, when the time comes, use it without hesitation. That wand was made to fight. Dobby returned them to Hogwarts, and Harry walked back through the hidden passage to the 7th floor. The castle was quiet, afternoon classes were still in session, and no one had apparently noticed his absence. Small mercies. Lily was waiting in the room of requirement, surrounded by floating parchments covered in her handwriting. She'd been busy. I've drafted the formal challenge, she said without preamble. Under Section 12 of the Wisengamot Charter, a lord of an ancient house can bring charges directly to the full body without going through the DMLE. It's faster, it's public, and Dumbledore can't suppress it through ministry channels. Amelia Bones, Harry said, settling into a chair. Do we not need her? We need her as an ally, not as a gatekeeper, James said. If we file through the DMLE, Fudge can interfere. He's been trying to discredit you all year, he'd bury this to spite you and Dumbledore both. But a direct lordship challenge goes straight to the Wisengamot floor. Fudge can't stop it. Dumbledore can't stop it. The chief warlock has to recuse himself because he's the accused party, which means, Amelia Bones takes the chair as senior DMLE official, Lily finished. She's honest. She'll run a fair hearing. And Augusta Longbottom? Harry asked. She'll second the challenge. Old pure-blood tradition, a lordship challenge needs a second from another ancient house. Augusta will do it. The Longbottoms were in our will, Harry. If Frank and Alice hadn't been tortured into insanity, you'd have grown up with Neville as a brother. Augusta knows that. She'll be furious when she learns what Dumbledore did. Harry nodded slowly. His mind was racing, but it was a focused kind of racing, not the panicked spiral he was used to, but a clear, directed momentum. What about Dumbledore himself? He's going to find out about this before the hearing. He has spies everywhere, portraits, house elves, Snape. Let him find out, James said. His spirit form brightened with something aggressive, challenging. What's he going to do? He can't obliviate you, you're a lord now, and memory modification of a lord is an act of war against his house. He can't suppress the filing, it's already going out by goblin messenger, which the ministry can't intercept. He can't run, that's an admission of guilt. His only option is to try to talk you out of it. And that, Lily said, is exactly what he's going to do. He's going to come to you tonight, or tomorrow, or whenever he realizes what's happening. He's going to use every manipulation technique he has, guilt, fear, the greater good, Voldemort, the prophecy. He's going to tell you that this will destroy the resistance against Voldemort. That without him, everyone dies. Will it? Harry asked bluntly. Will everyone die without him? James and Lily were quiet for a moment. Then Lily spoke, carefully. Dumbledore is powerful and knowledgeable. He's not irreplaceable. The Order of the Phoenix existed before him and its members will fight regardless. The information he holds about Voldemort, the Horcruxes, we know about those too. We watched, Harry. For 14 years, we've watched from the other side. We know what Voldemort did to his soul. How many? Harry asked. 6 pieces, plus the one in his body, Lily said. 7 total. The diary you destroyed in second year was 1. The ring, the one Dumbledore was planning to retrieve this summer, is another. The locket of Slytherin. The cup of Hufflepuff. The diadem of Ravenclaw. The snake, Nagini. Anne, she stopped. James stopped. They both looked at Harry with an expression he couldn't read. And me, Harry said quietly. There's one in me. In my scar. You know, James said, not a question. I've suspected for a while. The connection to him. The visions. The Parseltongue. It makes sense. We can fix it, Lily said quickly, fiercely. Harry, listen to me. Dumbledore thinks you have to die to destroy it. That's his plan, his endgame. Raise you up, keep you loyal, point you at Voldemort, and let you sacrifice yourself. That's why he never trained you, never prepared you, never let you become too powerful. A weapon doesn't need to be strong. It just needs to reach the target. But you can fix it. Harry pressed. The resurrection stone, Lily said. It commands the boundary between life and death. A Horcrux is a fragment of soul anchored to the living world against its will, against the natural order. The stone can pull it free without harming the host. I've been working on the theory since we died, honestly. I had a lot of time and a lot of motivation. It'll hurt, James said bluntly. It'll hurt a lot. But you'll survive. When? Harry asked. After the trial, Lily said. When we've secured your position, when Dumbledore can't interfere. We'll do it properly, in the Potter ritual room, with the grimoire's guidance, with every protection we can layer. No rushing. No half measures. Harry nodded. Okay. After the trial. He looked at the parchments floating around his mother. So what happens now? Tonight? Now, James said, we write letters. Amelia Bones, Augusta Longbottom, Sirius. The challenge filing goes to the Wizengamot first thing in the morning. Ironclaw is handling the formal submission through Goblin channels. By tomorrow afternoon, Dumbledore will be served with notice. And then? And then he comes to talk to you, Lily said. And you don't let him. You don't have to justify yourself to him, Harry. You don't owe him an explanation. You don't owe him forgiveness. You don't owe him anything. Harry pulled parchment toward him and picked up a quill. Let's start with Sirius. Writing to Sirius was harder than Harry expected. Not because he didn't know what to say, but because there was too much to say and no good way to compress it into a letter. In the end, he kept it short. Sirius, Mom and Dad are back. Spirits, not bodies, but real. Aware. Talking. Long story involving the resurrection stone. They're furious about everything. We're going after Dumbledore, legally. Kidnapping charges through the Wizengamot. There will named you first for custody. It was sealed. Dumbledore sealed it. I need you at the hearing. I know you're still technically wanted, but we're going to fix that too. Your trial, or rather, your lack of one, is part of the case. Come to Potter Manor, I'm having the Fidelius broken. It'll be safe. Also, I'm Lord Potter Peverell now. Claimed the lordship this morning. I'm not a kid anymore, legally speaking. So stop worrying about me and start worrying about Dumbledore. See you soon. Harry he sealed it with the Potter crest. The ring knew what to do, pressing into the wax and leaving a mark that glowed gold for a moment before settling, and handed it to Dobby with instructions to deliver it personally to Sirius, wherever he was. The letter to Amelia Bones was more formal. Lily dictated most of it, laying out the legal basis for the challenge in precise, unarguable terms. The letter to Augusta Longbottom was shorter, an appeal to her honor and her friendship with the Potter family, a brief summary of what had been done, and a request for her support. Rita Skeeter, Harry said, picking up a fresh quill. Not yet, Lily cautioned. Skeeter after the filing is accepted. If we go to the press before the Wizengamot acknowledges the case, Dumbledore can frame it as a publicity stunt. After the filing, it's news. Smart, Harry admitted. Fine. But I want Hermione and Ron to know. Tonight. Before this becomes public. Then tell them, James said. But be careful about what you say in the castle. The portraits report to Dumbledore. So do several of the ghosts. And Snape, Harry said darkly. Another thing. Dumbledore forced you to name Snape as your protector, didn't he? The Fidelius charm, no, James said, and his voice was iron. We chose Peter. That was our mistake, mine and Sirius's. We didn't trust Remus because of the werewolf prejudice, and we thought Peter was too insignificant to suspect. That's on us. But Dumbledore knew there was a spy in the Order and didn't tell us who. He let us play Russian roulette with our secret keeper while he held information that could have saved our lives. And Snape, Lily said, in a voice that could have cut glass, went to Dumbledore and begged for my life. Not James's. Not Harry's. Mine. Because he was obsessed with me, and Dumbledore used that obsession to turn him into a spy. Dumbledore let Snape's fixation fester because it was useful. And then he put Snape in charge of teaching our son, knowing Snape would take out 14 years of jealousy and bitterness on a child who looks exactly like the man who stole the woman he was obsessed with. So we add that to the charges, Harry said calmly. Gladly, Lily said. Harry found Hermione and Ron in the Gryffindor common room that evening, after dinner. They were bent over homework, Hermione's neat and organized, Ron sprawling and coffee-stained. Harry walked straight to them, jerked his head toward the dormitory stairs, and said, upstairs. Now. It's important. They followed without argument. Something in his face must have told them this wasn't the usual Harry has a bad feeling conversation. In the dormitory, Harry sealed the door with 3 different privacy charms, things his mother had taught him that morning, ancient and powerful and utterly beyond anything a 5th year should know. Ron watched with widening eyes. Hermione watched with narrowing ones. Harry, she said carefully, where did you learn those? My mum taught me, Harry said. Sit down. Both of you. And he told them everything. It took an hour. Ron's face progressed through a visible journey, confusion, shock, rage, awe, and finally a kind of fierce satisfaction that made him look like his mother in the best possible way. Hermione went white when Harry described the sealed will, whiter when he described the Dursleys' payments from his vault, and absolutely marble still when he explained the Horcrux in his scar. He was going to let you die, she whispered. That was the plan, Harry confirmed. But my parents have a better one. Can I see them? Ron asked. Harry touched the stone under his shirt and concentrated. James and Lily flickered into visibility, standing by the window, and Ron promptly fell off his bed. Bloody hell, language, Lily said mildly, and then smiled. Hello, Ron. Harry's told us about you. Both of you. We're very grateful for what you've done for our son. Mrs. Potter, Hermione breathed, staring at Lily with an expression that mixed academic fascination with genuine awe. The theoretical framework for what you're doing, sustains spiritual manifestation through artifact anchoring, it shouldn't be possible at this level of cognition and interaction. The stone in the stories only produces shades, the stone in the stories was never used by someone carrying a piece of another wizard's soul, Lily said. Harry's connection to Voldemort, ironically, is what gave us this. The Horcrux creates a gap in the boundary between life and death, a crack. The stone widens the crack. Our love anchors us to Harry's side of it. So Voldemort accidentally gave you your parents back, Ron said, righting himself. That's actually hilarious. It gets better, James said, grinning. We're going to use the opportunity he accidentally created to destroy him, free Harry from the soul fragment, and take down the man who put our son in a cupboard under the stairs for 10 years. Voldemort played himself. Ron looked at Harry. Mate. You're going to take on Dumbledore and you know who at the same time. Not at the same time, Harry said. Dumbledore first. Then Voldemort. One mess at a time. What do you need from us? Hermione asked. Her voice had gone from shocked to businesslike. Her eyes were sharp, calculating. Hermione in problem-solving mode was a force of nature. Hermione, I need you on legal research. Mums covered the magical law angle, but there might be Muggle law crossovers, precedents about sealed wills, about financial mismanagement of minors' estates. Anything we can use. Ron, political angle, Ron said immediately. Dad works at the ministry. He's in the order, but he's not, he doesn't agree with everything Dumbledore does. And Mum would lose her mind if she knew what the Dursleys did to you. She's been trying to get you out of there for years. Can your parents be trusted not to tell Dumbledore? Harry asked directly. Ron was quiet for a moment. Thinking. Then he nodded. If I explain it properly. If they see the will and the evidence. Mums always said she didn't understand why Dumbledore insisted you stay there. She'll choose you, Harry. I know she will. Then tell them. After the filing is accepted, I'll tell you when. Not before. Harry, Hermione said. She was looking at him with an expression he'd never seen from her, not concern, not disapproval, not academic curiosity. Something more like recognition. You're different. I found my parents, Harry said simply. Everything that was wrong with my life, they're going to help me fix it. I don't have to do this alone anymore. You were never alone, Ron said gruffly. But yeah. This is better. Harry managed a smile. The first genuine, uncomplicated smile he'd worn in months. Yeah. It is. He was right that Dumbledore would come that night. It was past midnight when the headmaster appeared at the entrance to the room of requirement. Harry was still inside, practicing spells from the grimoire. His parents took turns teaching him, James on offense, Lily on defense and theory. The room had configured itself as a training space, and Harry's new Elder Wand sang with every spell he cast, eager and powerful and perfectly matched to his magic. Dumbledore knocked. Not magically, physically. 3 gentle taps on the door that the room had manifested. Harry felt it through the room's awareness, a sense he'd developed since claiming lordship, as though the room recognized him differently now. He knew who was on the other side. He's here, Harry said, lowering his wand. Earlier than I expected, James muttered. Ironclaw must have informed the Hogwarts account that your magical guardian status was revoked. That triggers an automatic notification. What do I do? Harry asked. Whatever you want, Lily said firmly. You can let him in or you can refuse. He has no authority over you anymore. Harry thought about it. Thought about 15 years of manipulation, of danger, of being kept ignorant and weak and dependent. Thought about the cupboard under the stairs. Thought about Dumbledore's twinkling eyes and gentle suggestions and all the times Harry had nearly died while the most powerful wizard in Britain watched from a distance. I'll let him in, Harry said. I want him to see what I've become in one day without him. I want him to know he's lost. He waved his hand. The door opened. Dumbledore stood in the corridor, and for the first time in Harry's memory, the old wizard looked his age. His face was drawn, his eyes lacking their usual twinkle, and his posture, usually so carefully casual, so artfully eccentric, was stiff with tension. Harry, Dumbledore said. May I come in? Lord Potter Peveril, Harry corrected, and he watched the words land like a physical blow. Dumbledore's eyes widened fractionally. His gaze dropped to the ring on Harry's finger, then rose to the wand in Harry's hand, not the Holly wand, the Elder Wand, and then snapped to the 2 figures standing behind Harry. James, Dumbledore breathed. Lily. Albus, James said coldly. You can come in, Harry said, stepping back. But understand that this is my space, in my school, yes, my school, the Peveril Charter predates the Hogwarts Charter and gives the Peveril Lord certain rights within these walls, and you are here as a guest. Not as my headmaster. Not as my guardian. Not as anything except a man I'm choosing to speak with. Dumbledore entered slowly. The door closed behind him. He looked around the room, at the training equipment, the floating grimoire pages, the evidence of hours of advanced magical practice, and something shifted in his expression. Not surprise, exactly. More like the confirmation of something he'd feared. I see you've been busy, Dumbledore said quietly. 14 years of catching up to do, Harry said. No thanks to you. Harry, Lord Potter Peveril, I understand you're angry. You have every right to be. But I need you to understand that everything I did was for the greater good, Harry finished. I know. That's your line. It's always your line. Sit down, Dumbledore. I want to hear you say it to their faces. He pointed at James and Lily. Dumbledore looked at them, really looked, and for the first time, Harry saw genuine pain in those blue eyes. I am sorry, Dumbledore said. Truly, deeply sorry for your loss and for, our loss, James interrupted, was caused in part by your decisions. You knew there was a spy. You didn't tell us who. You encouraged us to use Peter when you had information suggesting he was compromised. And after we died for our son, you took him from the people we chose and put him in a house where he was starved, beaten, and locked in a cupboard for 10 years. Dumbledore closed his eyes. The blood wards don't work if the home isn't a place of love, Lily said flatly. I designed those wards, Albus. I designed them and I know their limitations. A protection based on love requires love to function. You put Harry in a house without love and told yourself the wards held. They didn't. They degraded every year. By the time Harry was 6, they were barely functional. You knew that because you had Arabella Figg monitoring the ward strength monthly. It's in her reports, which we'll be subpoenaing. Dumbledore opened his eyes. He looked old. Old and tired and, not defeated. Not yet. There was still calculation behind those eyes, still the whirring of a brilliant mind seeking advantage. If I may ask, Dumbledore said carefully, what is it you intend to accomplish? Publicly destroying me will not defeat Voldemort. It will not protect Harry. It will fracture the only organized resistance. You're not the only person who can fight Voldemort, Harry said. You're not even the best person. You've known about the Horcruxes for years and you haven't destroyed a single one. I've destroyed one, the diary, at age 12, alone, with no help from you. My parents know where all of them are. We have resources, we have allies, and we have something you never gave me, information. The prophecy is a self-fulfilling trap that you've been engineering since before I was born, Lily said. Neither can live while the other survives, and your interpretation was that Harry had to die. That was never the only reading, Albus. You chose it because it was convenient. Because a martyr is easier to control than a warrior. Dumbledore was silent for a long time. The room was quiet around them, even the ambient magic of the place seemed to hold its breath. You're right, Dumbledore said finally, and the admission seemed to cost him something physical. You're right that I chose, interpreted, the path of least resistance. But you must understand that I was afraid. Tom Riddle was the most dangerous wizard in living memory, and I had seen what happened when powerful young wizards were given too much freedom. I had seen, he stopped. Swallowed. I had seen what I myself became, when I was young and powerful and believed I knew better than everyone. So you became the thing you feared, James said quietly. You controlled a child's life because you were afraid of what you might become. You became it anyway, Albus. You just told yourself a different story about it. I'm not going to debate philosophy with you, Harry said, standing straighter. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow morning, you're going to be served with a formal challenge from House Potter Peveril. Kidnapping, financial mismanagement, violation of a sealed testament, abuse through negligence. You can fight it or you can accept it, but it's happening regardless. If you try to interfere, if you try to obliviate me, influence the Wiesengemot, or suppress the evidence, I will release everything to the press immediately. The sealed will. The vault records. Everything. And if Voldemort moves while we're fighting each other? Dumbledore asked. Then I'll deal with Voldemort too, Harry said. You've convinced yourself you're indispensable. You're not. The world survived before you, and it'll survive after you. Dumbledore looked at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, the old wizard stood. I will not fight the challenge, he said quietly. I will answer it. I will tell the Wiesengemot what I did and why. And I will accept whatever judgment they render. But Harry, Lord Potter Peveril, please hear me. Whatever else I have done, whatever mistakes I have made, I have never wanted you dead. The plan was always for you to survive. The sacrifice, it didn't require permanent death. The Horcrux could be destroyed by the killing curse without, get out, Harry said. Now. Dumbledore bowed his head. He turned and walked to the door. Albus, Lily called after him. He paused. You will never be alone with our son again, she said. Not in this castle, not in a courtroom, not anywhere. Those are our terms. Violate them and the kidnapping charge becomes the least of your problems. Dumbledore nodded once. The door opened. He walked out. The door closed. In the silence that followed, Harry realized his hands were shaking. Not with fear, with adrenaline. With the thundering, incandescent relief of finally having someone stand between him and the man who'd controlled his entire life. You did well, James said softly. I'm proud of you. We both are, Lily added. Harry sat down heavily. The Elder Wand hummed in his hand, warm and alive. The Peveril ring glowed softly on his finger. Tomorrow, the world would change. He was ready. Chapter 3, The Trial of the Century. The Wiesengemot summons arrived at breakfast. Not for Harry, he'd filed the challenge. The summons was for Dumbledore, and it arrived in the form of a goblin-forged envelope that materialized directly in front of the headmaster's plate at the staff table, bypassing every ward and protection on the Great Hall. The envelope was black, sealed with the silver crest of the Wiesengemot, and it hummed with a magic that made every student within 10 feet lean away unconsciously. Harry watched from the Gryffindor table. Watched Dumbledore's hand pause over his morning tea. Watched the old wizard's eyes flick, just for a moment, to Harry across the hall. Watched him pick up the envelope, break the seal, read the contents, and fold the parchment neatly beside his plate without a single change in expression. He's good, Ron muttered beside Harry. Didn't even flinch. He's had 150 years of practice, Harry said, buttering toast he had no intention of eating. But look at McGonagall. Ron looked. Professor McGonagall had noticed the envelope. Her lips were thin, her eyes darting between Dumbledore and Harry with an expression that suggested she already knew, or suspected, far more than she should. Dumbledore must have told her something after last night's confrontation. She's going to try to talk to you, Hermione said from Harry's other side. She'd barely touched her own breakfast, a stack of legal texts balanced on her lap beneath the table. She'll think she's being reasonable. She'll tell you to let the adults handle it. Let her try, Harry said. The Morning Post arrived in a flurry of owls. 3 letters found Harry. The first bore the seal of the DMLE, Amelia Bones's response, formal and precise, confirming she'd received his correspondence and would preside over the hearing as senior judicial authority in the Chief Warlock's absence. The second was from Augusta Longbottom, 3 lines long. I remember your grandparents. I remember your parents' wishes. I will second your challenge. Expect me at the ministry at 9 o'clock Tuesday morning. The third letter was from Sirius. It was barely legible, the handwriting wild and slanting, and it said only, "On my way. Don't do anything stupid before I get there." Actually, scratch that, do whatever you want. I'll back your play. Always. Tuesday, Harry said. 3 days. 3 days to prepare, Hermione confirmed. Harry, I found 17 precedents in Muggle inheritance law alone that support, later, Harry said, rising from the table. Right now, I have somewhere to be. The room of requirement had configured itself differently today. Gone was the training space. In its place was something resembling a war room, a long table covered in parchments, maps, and documents, with chairs for a dozen people. The walls were lined with bookshelves, and at the far end, the Potter pensieve sat on a stand, filled with swirling silver that caught the light. James and Lily were already there, they didn't sleep, didn't need rest, and had spent the night organizing evidence. James was pacing beside the table, dictating notes to a self-writing quill, while Lily stood over the pensieve with her hands extended, drawing memories from her mind in long silver threads. "The testimony order," James said as Harry entered. "We need to decide. Who speaks first matters, it sets the emotional tone for the entire hearing." "Harry speaks first," Lily said without looking up. "He's the victim. The Wisengamot needs to see him, not as the boy who lived, not as Dumbledore's golden child, but as a 15-year-old who was failed by every institution that should have protected him." "I'm not 15 legally," Harry pointed out, settling into a chair. "I'm Lord Potter Peveril." "Which is exactly why your age matters more, not less," Lily countered. She turned from the pensieve, a completed memory thread floating beside her. "You claimed lordship because you had to, because no one was protecting you as a minor. That narrative is powerful. Don't undercut it by acting too adult." "Your mother's right," James said. "You walk in there with your titles and your power and your ring, but when you testify, you talk about being 11 and hungry. You talk about being 12 and fighting a basilisk while the headmaster did nothing. You let them feel the gap between who you were and who you should have been." Harry nodded slowly. It made sense. Not manipulation, truth. The truth just happened to be devastating. "After Harry, then us," James continued. "Lily goes second, she's calm, precise, legal. She presents the will, the financial records, the ward analysis. Then I go third. He grinned without humor. "I'm the angry father. I ask questions they can't answer. Why was Sirius Black never given a trial? Why was Peter Pettigrew never investigated? Why did Dumbledore personally request the Fidelius and then fail to protect us? And the pensive memories?" Harry asked. "Supporting evidence," Lily said. "After testimony. We show them the cupboard under the stairs. We show them Harry at 8, cooking breakfast with burns on his hands while the Dursleys' son ate himself sick. We show them Harry's first year, being directed toward the Philosopher's Stone by a series of obstacles that a first year could solve, because they were designed to be solved by a first year. By our first year. You saw all of that?" Harry asked. He'd known, intellectually, that his parents had been watching. But hearing it confirmed was different. Knowing they'd seen every moment of his suffering, every moment, James said quietly. "Every single moment, Harry. And we couldn't do anything. We couldn't reach through, couldn't intervene. All we could do was watch our son be hurt and know that the man responsible was standing 30 feet away with a lemon drop in his mouth and a twinkle in his eye." The room was quiet for a moment. "Then let's make it count," Harry said. McGonagall caught him after lunch. She was waiting outside the Transfiguration classroom, her posture rigid, her hat slightly askew as if she'd been running her hand over her head in agitation. When she saw Harry approaching, she stepped forward. "Mr. Pot," she stopped. "Reassessed. Lord Potter Peveril. A word, if you please." "Professor," Harry said pleasantly. He didn't slow down. She fell into step beside him, which was unusual enough to draw stares from passing students. "I've spoken with the headmaster," she said, keeping her voice low. "He tells me you filed formal charges with the Waisengemot." "I have. He also tells me," she paused, seemed to struggle with something. "He tells me your parents have returned. As spirits. They have. Would you like to meet them?" McGonagall stopped walking. Harry turned to face her. Up close, he could see something he hadn't expected in her expression. Not disapproval. Not the stern "this is inappropriate" face he'd braced for. Something more like grief. And beneath it, burning steady and fierce, anger. "I told him," she said, very quietly. "The night he left you there. I sat on that wall all day and I watched those people and I told him they were the worst sort of muggles. He said the blood wards required it. He said there was no alternative. He said," she stopped. Drew herself up. "I should have done more." "Yes," Harry said. Not cruelly, just honestly. "You should have. But you're not the one I'm charging. You were lied to as well. What can I do now?" Harry studied her. Minerva McGonagall, strict, fair, loyal to Hogwarts above all else. Loyal to her students. She'd fought Death Eaters and stood against the Ministry and gone toe-to-toe with Umbridge all year. And she'd watched Dumbledore place a baby on a doorstep in November and had done nothing because she trusted him. "Tuesday," Harry said. "The hearing is Tuesday. If you're willing to testify that Dumbledore knew about the conditions at Privet Drive and chose not to intervene, if you're willing to confirm that the obstacles guarding the stone in first year were inappropriate for a school environment, I could use you." "You want me to testify against Albus Dumbledore," McGonagall said. "Not a question. I want you to tell the truth. If the truth happens to be damning, that's his problem, not yours." She was quiet for a long moment. Students streamed past them, casting curious looks that neither acknowledged. "Tuesday," McGonagall said finally. "I'll be there." And Potter, the old name slipped out, familiar and warm. "Your parents. James and Lily." Yes. I'd very much like to see them again. Come to the room of requirement tonight. 7th floor, opposite the tapestry. Think about what you need when you walk past." She nodded once, sharply, and walked away. Her back was straight as iron. Monday passed in a blur of preparation. Harry skipped all his classes, no one challenged him, not even Umbridge, who seemed to sense that something had shifted in the castle's power dynamics without understanding what. The Toad Woman watched Harry pass her in the corridor with narrowed eyes but said nothing, as if some instinct warned her that prodding this particular student right now would end badly. In the room of requirement, the war room had expanded. McGonagall had come and gone, visibly shaken by the encounter with James and Lily but steel-spined in her commitment. Neville Longbottom had appeared at Harry's invitation, Augusta Longbottom had oled her grandson, and Neville had shown up looking pale but determined, offering his own testimony about the state of things at Hogwarts. "Gran's furious," Neville said quietly, sitting at the war table with his hands clasped in his lap. "When she read the will, that my parents were supposed to have you, she broke a vase. Then she broke another one. Then she sat down and wrote 6 letters in an hour. I don't know who they all went to, but I know one went to the Waisengemot Records office and one went to Griselda Marchbanks." "Marchbanks is senior on the Waisengemot," Lily said approvingly. "Old guard. She's been suspicious of Dumbledore since Grindelwald. If Augusta has her ear, that's 3 votes we can count on before we even walk in the door." "How many do we need?" Harry asked. "Simple majority for a finding of guilt. That's 26 of the 50 members. For sentencing, it varies by charge. Kidnapping of a lord requires a 2/3 majority for the maximum penalty." "We'll get it," James said. "Once they see the memories, we'll get it." Sirius arrived Monday evening. Harry was in the room of requirement when he felt it, a tug at the edge of his awareness, the castle's wards registering a familiar magical signature at the boundary. He'd keyed Sirius into the wards that morning, using the Peveril Charter's authority to override Hogwarts' standing restrictions. Another thing Dumbledore didn't know he could do. He went to meet him at the main entrance. The sun was setting, painting the castle in shades of amber and rose, and Sirius Black stood at the gate looking like he'd run the entire way from wherever he'd been hiding. Thin, unshaven, wearing robes that had seen better decades, but alive. Alive and free and here. Harry, Sirius breathed, and then Harry was being crushed in a hug so tight it cracked something in his chest, not a bone. Something older. Something that had been waiting 15 years to break. "Hey, Padfoot," Harry managed against his godfather's shoulder. Sirius pulled back, holding Harry at arm's length, looking at him with wild eyes. "You look different. Taller?" "No. Something else." Something, his gaze dropped to the Peveril ring. His breath caught. "Merlin's beard. You actually did it. Lord Peveril. You mad bastard. Takes one to know one." Sirius laughed, a proper laugh, the barking one that sounded like the dog he could become. Then his face shifted, emotion rolling across it like weather. "James and Lily. You said, Harry, are they really?" Harry touched the stone. His parents materialized on either side of him, and Sirius Black made a sound that Harry never wanted to hear again. A sound like something breaking and mending at the same time. "Prongs," Sirius whispered. "Hey, Padfoot," James said, and his voice was rough. "You look terrible. You look dead." "Fair point." They stared at each other. 15 years of grief and guilt and Azkaban and death hung between them like a curtain. Then James stepped forward, drifted forward, and raised one translucent hand. Sirius lifted his own. Their palms met, and something happened at the intersection, a warmth, a glow, a pulse of magic that was visible to the naked eye. "I'm sorry," Sirius said. "James, I'm so sorry." "Peter, I convinced you to switch to Peter." "I know," James said. "I watched. I saw everything, Azkaban, the escape, all of it. And I'm not angry at you, Padfoot. I was never angry at you. You were trying to protect us. The rat betrayed everyone." Sirius turned to Lily. "Lily, if you apologize to me, I'll find a way to slap you from beyond the grave," Lily said firmly. "You have nothing to apologize for. Now stop crying and come inside. We have work to do and you have a trial to survive." "A trial?" Sirius wiped his face with the back of his hand, not even pretending dignity. "Your trial," Harry said, guiding him toward the castle. "Or rather, your lack of one. It's part of our case against Dumbledore. He was chief warlock when you were arrested. He could have demanded a trial. He could have insisted on Veritaserum. He did nothing, let you rot in Azkaban for 12 years without lifting a finger. Because if you were free, you'd have taken custody of me. And he needed me at Privet Drive." Sirius stopped walking. The look on his face wasn't grief anymore. It was fury, pure, crystalline, volcanic. "He let me go to Azkaban," Sirius said slowly, "because he wanted to keep you with the Dursleys." "Yes. 12 years. 12 years with the Dementors. Because he needed to control you." "Yes." Sirius's hands curled into fists. His magic crackled, visible, tangible, making the air around him taste of ozone. "I'm going to kill him." "No," Harry said firmly. "You're going to destroy him legally. In front of the entire Wizengamot. In front of the press. In front of everyone who ever trusted him. Killing him makes him a martyr. The trial makes him nothing." Sirius stared at Harry for a long moment. Then his fists unclenched. His magic settled. A smile spread across his face, slow, dangerous, utterly marauder. When did you get so smart? I've had good teachers recently, Harry said, glancing at his parents. Come on, James said. We have one night to prep you for testimony, Sirius. And for the love of Merlin, someone get this man a shower and a proper set of robes. He's not walking into the Wizengamot looking like an escaped convict. I am an escaped convict. Not for much longer, Lily said. Tuesday morning dawned grey and cold, the kind of English spring morning that couldn't decide if it was still winter. Harry stood in the room of requirement at 6 a.m., fully dressed in robes he'd had sent from Twilfit and Tattings, not Madame Malkin's. These were Lord's robes, black with silver trim, the Potter crest on the left breast and the Peveril mark on the right. They fit perfectly. They felt like armor. His holly wand was in a hip holster. The elder wand was in the arm sheath under his sleeve. The resurrection stone hung against his chest. The Peveril ring sat on his finger. The invisibility cloak was folded in his inner pocket, not because he planned to use it, but because 3 Hallows were stronger than 2, and today he needed every advantage. Ready? James asked. Ready. Remember, Lily said. When you testify, be honest. Be direct. Don't perform. Don't try to be sympathetic. Just tell the truth. The truth is enough. Harry nodded. He looked at Sirius, who'd been transformed by a night of proper food, sleep, and magic. He wore borrowed robes, from the Potter vault, actually, a set of James's old formal wear that fit him well enough. His hair was cut short, his face clean-shaven. He looked, for the first time in years, like the Lord of House Black that he was. Dobby, Harry called. The elf appeared with a crack. Harry Potter, Lord Potter Peveril, is ready. Ministry of Magic, Harry said. The Wizengamot entrance. All of us. Including the Dogfather. Sirius blinked. The Dogfather? It's what Dobby calls you. Long story. Let's go. Dobby took Harry's hand. Sirius gripped Harry's shoulder. James and Lily tied their presents to the stone. And with a crack that echoed with more force than any house elf apparition should carry, they vanished. The ministry atrium was already crowded at 8:30. Word had gotten out, of course it had. You couldn't file a formal lordship challenge against Albus Dumbledore without the entire wizarding world hearing about it within hours. The Prophet had run a front-page story that morning, not Skeeter's piece, which was being held for after the hearing, but a factual report that merely stated the filing had occurred. Potter heir charges Dumbledore with kidnapping, Wizengamot hearing today. The headline was enough. The atrium was packed with reporters, ministry workers pretending to be on business, and members of the public who'd clearly come just to watch. Flashbulbs popped the instant Harry appeared. He didn't flinch. Didn't hurry. Walked through the atrium at a measured pace with Sirius at his right shoulder and his parents invisible at his sides. People stared. Whispered. Pointed. He let them. The Wizengamot chamber was in the lowest level of the ministry, courtroom 10, but expanded for the occasion. When Harry descended in the lift and walked through the heavy doors, the chamber had been magically widened to accommodate the full body of 50 members plus observers. The benches rose in tiers on 3 sides, dark wood and purple hangings, already filling with witches and wizards in plum-colored robes. Augusta Longbottom was already seated. She caught Harry's eye and gave a single, sharp nod. Beside her, Griselda Marchbanks, ancient, fierce-eyed, leaning forward in her seat with obvious interest. On the opposite bench, Harry spotted faces less friendly, Lucius Malfoy's pale head among them, watching with an expression of carefully manufactured neutrality. The chair at the center of the highest bench, the Chief Warlock's seat, was empty. Beside it, a placard had been placed, presiding, Amelia Bones, head of the DMLE. Amelia Bones sat 2 seats down from the empty chair. She was a square-jawed woman with a monocle and an expression that suggested she had absolutely no patience for drama, politics, or wasted time. When Harry entered, her gaze tracked him with professional assessment, nothing hostile, nothing friendly. Just evaluation. The prosecution bench, Harry's bench, was to the left of the chamber floor. Harry took his seat. Sirius sat behind him in the witness gallery. McGonagall was already there, ramrod straight in her best robes. The defense bench was to the right. It was empty. At precisely 9 o'clock, the doors opened again. Dumbledore entered alone. He wore plain robes, not his usual eccentric finery, but simple dark blue, unadorned. His beard was neatly groomed, his half-moon spectacles polished. He walked with quiet dignity to the defense bench and sat. He did not look at Harry. "This hearing is now in session," Amelia Bones said, her voice carrying through the chamber without amplification. "The matter before this body is a formal challenge filed by Lord Harry James Potter Peverell against Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore, on charges of unlawful guardianship, violation of a sealed magical testament, financial mismanagement of a minor's estate, and abuse through negligence. The challenge has been seconded by the Lady Augusta Longbottom of the ancient and noble house of Longbottom." She paused. "Let the word settle. Lord Potter Peverell. You have the floor." Harry stood. The chamber was silent, 50 Wizengamot members, 24 observers, a dozen reporters, all staring at a 15-year-old boy in lord's robes. He felt the weight of it. Let it settle on his shoulders. And then set it aside, because it didn't matter. "Members of the Wizengamot," Harry said, and his voice didn't waver. "On the night of October 31st, 1981, my parents were murdered by Lord Voldemort." A ripple of flinches through the chamber. Harry ignored it. "3 days later, Albus Dumbledore placed me on the doorstep of number 4, Privet Drive, Little Whinging, Surrey. He left me there, an infant, in November, with a letter. Not with my godfather, Sirius Black, who was named in my parents' will. Not with the Longbottoms, who were named second. Not with Remus Lupin, named third. Not with Amelia Bones." He let his gaze rest on the presiding witch, whose monocle had dropped. "Named fourth. He left me with Petunia Dursley. My parents will explicitly, specifically, unequivocally forbade this. The will also explicitly forbade Dumbledore himself from taking guardianship. He sealed the will to prevent anyone from knowing this. Then he assumed guardianship and controlled my life for 14 years." Harry reached into his robes and produced the will, the original, Gringotts verified copy. "I would like to submit this document as evidence. The last will and testament of James and Lily Potter, sealed by order of the Wizengamot on November 3, 1981, at the personal request of Albus Dumbledore." A court clerk hurried forward to take the document. It was passed to Amelia Bones, who read it. Her face didn't change, but her hand tightened on the parchment until her knuckles went white. "The will is authenticated," Bones said. "Gringotts verification confirmed. Let it be entered into evidence." "The will speaks for itself," Harry continued. "But I want the court to understand why it matters. Not just legally, personally. Because the home Dumbledore chose for me was not a home. It was a prison." He told them. Not dramatically, not with tears or theatrical pauses. He told them the way you tell a doctor about an injury, factually, precisely, without embellishment. The cupboard under the stairs for 10 years. The meals withheld as punishment. Dudley's hand-me-downs 3 sizes too large. Vernon's backhand when Harry asked questions. The bars on his window at 12. Being told his parents were drunks who died in a car crash. Being punished for accidental magic. Being starved every summer when he returned from Hogwarts. The chamber was deathly silent. Several Wizengamot members had gone pale. Augusta Longbottom's face was carved from granite, her knuckles white around the arm of her bench. Even Lucius Malfoy, who Harry had expected to look smug, appeared genuinely disturbed, a flicker of something almost human crossing his aristocratic features. "I'm not telling you this for sympathy," Harry said. "I'm telling you this because Albus Dumbledore knew. He had a spy living on Privet Drive, a squib named Arabella Figg, paid from my own vault to monitor me. She reported to him regularly. He knew about the cupboard. He knew about the hunger. He knew about the abuse. And he left me there because a suffering child was more useful to him than a happy one." Harry sat down. The silence lasted 4 seconds. Then the chamber erupted. It took Amelia Bones 3 minutes to restore order. She did it without shouting, just sat there with her monocle fixed and her gavel raised until the noise died of its own accord. "The accused will now have the opportunity to respond," she said. "Mr. Dumbledore." Dumbledore rose slowly. He looked out at the chamber, at the 50 faces staring at him, some horrified, some angry, some waiting to be convinced. "I will not deny the facts as Lord Potter Peverell has presented them," Dumbledore said. His voice was calm, measured, carrying the weight of decades of authority. "I sealed the will. I placed Harry with the Dursleys. I maintained surveillance rather than intervention. These things are true." A murmur ran through the chamber. Dumbledore raised a hand, a habitual gesture, the hand of a man used to commanding silence, and it worked, even now. "I did these things because, on the night of October 31st, 1981, I became aware that Lord Voldemort was not dead." The murmur became a roar. Bones's gavel cracked like a gunshot. "Order. You will have order or I will clear this chamber." Silence, grudging and electric. "Voldemort survived," Dumbledore continued, "through the use of soul magic so dark that most wizards cannot conceive of it. He had created anchors, fragments of his soul hidden in objects throughout Britain. As long as those anchors existed, he could not truly die. And as long as he existed, he would hunt Harry Potter. The blood wards at Privet Drive, based on Lily Potter's sacrifice, were the only protection I could devise that would hold against a being who had transcended normal death. They required Harry to live with a blood relative. Petunia Dursley was the only living blood relative available." He turned to face Harry directly. "I knew the home was unkind. I knew it was," a pause. "Something that might have been pain. Inadequate. I believed, wrongly, perhaps, that alive and unhappy was better than dead. I made a calculation. I do not claim it was the right calculation. But it was not made from malice." "Mr. Dumbledore," Amelia Bones said. "You state the blood wards required a blood relative. Can you explain to this body why the named guardians in the Potter will were rejected without consideration?" "Sirius Black was arrested for the murder of Peter Pettigrew and 12 Muggles without a trial," Bones cut in. "As Chief Warlock, you had the authority to demand a trial. Did you?" Dumbledore hesitated. The first time Harry had ever seen him hesitate in public. "I did not." "Why?" "I believed the evidence was clear at the time. The evidence was an exploded street and a finger," Bones said flatly. "No Veritaserum. No prior incantato on Black's wand. No investigation into the Fidelius charm and who was actually secret keeper. These are standard procedures, Mr. Dumbledore. You are aware of them." "I am." "And you chose not to pursue them." "I did. Because if Sirius Black had been found innocent," Bones said, and her voice had gone cold, precise, surgical, "he would have taken custody of Harry Potter. And you needed Harry Potter at Privet Drive. It wasn't a question." Dumbledore didn't answer it. "The Longbottoms," Bones continued. "Named second in the will. They were attacked and incapacitated in January of 1982, 3 months after Harry's placement. Before that attack, were they considered as guardians?" "They were, not approached," Dumbledore admitted. "Remus Lupin. Named third. Werewolf legislation at the time would have would have made it difficult, Bones corrected. Not impossible. A petition to the Wisengamot with the Potter will as support could have overcome the legal barriers. Was such a petition filed? It was not. And myself, Bones said, and her voice dropped to something quiet and dangerous. I was named fourth. I was never informed. Was there a reason for that, Mr. Dumbledore? Some legal barrier? Some logistical impossibility? Or did you simply decide that your judgment superseded the wishes of two dead parents? Dumbledore stood silent for a long moment. The chamber held its breath. I decided, he said finally, that the protection of the blood wards outweighed all other considerations. I was wrong to seal the will. I was wrong to assume guardianship without due process. I acknowledge this freely. But I ask this body to consider the context, a world reeling from war, a Dark Lord undead, and a child who was the only person alive who could eventually end the threat. You used a child as a weapon, Augusta Longbottom said from the benches, her voice cracking across the chamber like a whip. You kept him weak, kept him ignorant, kept him suffering, because you needed a sacrifice. Not a warrior, a lamb. That is not, I call the spirits of James and Lily Potter to testify, Harry said, standing. Under the Spiritual Testimony Act of 1645. Bones nodded. Granted. Spirits may manifest. Harry touched the stone. And his parents appeared. The chamber's reaction was instantaneous and violent. Gasps, screams, the clatter of dropped quills, and the scraping of benches as members of the Wisengamot physically recoiled. Ghosts were common in the wizarding world, but these weren't ghosts. These were spirits, anchored and aware and present in a way that ghosts never were. They glowed with a soft golden light, their faces clear and recognizable, their eyes alive with intelligence and fury. Members of the Wisengamot, Lily Potter said, and her voice carried perfectly through the stunned silence. I am Lily Marie Potter née Evans. I was murdered on October 31, 1981. I have been aware, conscious, watching, since my death. I have seen everything that was done to my son. And I am here to testify. James stepped forward. James Charles Potter. Same. We're here because our son found a way to bring us back, because he's more resourceful and more powerful than anyone ever gave him credit for. We're here because no one else fought for him, so he had to fight for himself. And we're here because what Albus Dumbledore did to our child was not protection, it was abuse by proxy, and we want justice. Bones recovered faster than most. Mrs. Potter. You designed the blood wards that were placed on the Dursley residence. Is that correct? I did, Lily said. And I can tell this body exactly how they work, because I invented them. The blood ward's power derives from love, specifically, from a maternal bond between the blood relative and the child. It requires that the blood relative accept the child willingly and care for them genuinely. A grudging, resentful, abusive custodian provides no magical protection whatsoever. Petunia Dursley hated my son. The wards degraded from the first night. By Harry's 6th birthday, they were providing less protection than a standard notice me not charm. You're saying the blood wards didn't work, Bones clarified. I'm saying they couldn't work in that environment. Dumbledore knew this. He monitored the ward's strength through Arabella Figg, who submitted monthly reports. I have watched those reports being written. I can provide pensive testimony to that effect, Dumbledore reading those reports and filing them away without action. He knew the wards were failing, James added, and he left Harry there anyway. Because by that point, it wasn't about protection. It was about control. Harry isolated from the wizarding world. Harry grateful for any scrap of kindness. Harry malleable, obedient, trusting. A boy raised in love would have questioned Dumbledore. A boy raised in a cupboard was just grateful someone was kind to him. The chamber was absolutely silent. Not even the reporters were writing, they were staring, quills frozen in midair. Dumbledore stood at the defense bench with his eyes closed. He looked, for the first time in Harry's life, like a man who knew he'd lost. "Mr. Dumbledore," Bones said. "Do you wish to cross-examine the witnesses?" Dumbledore opened his eyes. He looked at James and Lily, looked at them for a long time. Then he said, quietly, "No. I do not. The prosecution may continue." "I would like to present pensive evidence," Harry said. "Memories from my childhood, provided by my parents, stored in the Potter blood pensive, which is immune to tampering or modification. I would like the full body to view them." "Objection," said a voice from the benches. Lucius Malfoy, standing, his silver-topped cane glinting. "Pensive evidence from spirits has no precedent. The chain of custody, the Magical Evidence Act of 1753, Lily said coolly, establishes that memories stored in a blood-keyed pensive are admissible without chain of custody verification, as the blood key itself prevents any modification by anyone other than the bloodline holder. This is established law, Lord Malfoy. Would you like me to cite the specific provision?" Malfoy sat down. His face was unreadable, but Harry caught something in his eyes, not defeat. Calculation. The man was thinking. Weighing options. Harry filed that away for later. "The evidence is admissible," Bones ruled. "Clerk, prepare the projection pensive." They watched Harry's childhood. Not all of it, Lily had selected carefully. Key moments. Representative moments. A 4-year-old Harry being screamed at for burning toast, thrown into the cupboard, the door slamming, darkness. A 7-year-old Harry wearing Dudley's elephant-sized clothes, being laughed at by schoolchildren while his aunt watched and said nothing. A 9-year-old Harry on the roof of the school, put there by accidental magic, being hauled down and beaten for freakishness. The 11-year-old Harry reading his Hogwarts letter for the first time, the address written to the cupboard under the stairs, while the Wizengamot sat in ringing silence and stared at the truth. And then Hogwarts. The Philosopher's Stone, the trail of clues laid out like breadcrumbs for a child. The troll in the bathroom on Halloween while Dumbledore did nothing. The final confrontation with Quirrell Voldemort, an 11-year-old burning a man's face off with his bare hands and waking up in the hospital wing to Dumbledore's gentle, twinkling explanation that it was all fine. The Basilisk. 12 years old, alone in the Chamber of Secrets, dying of venom, killing a 60-foot serpent while the adults argued upstairs. Dumbledore's Phoenix arriving, not Dumbledore himself. Never Dumbledore himself. The graveyard. Harry tied to a tombstone, watching Cedric's body hit the ground, watching Voldemort rise from a cauldron, forced to duel with a wand that couldn't beat its brother. 14 years old and dying and alone. When the pensive projection faded, half the Wizengamot was in tears. Augusta Longbottom's face was wet. Griselda Marchbanks was gripping her bench so hard the wood had cracked. Even Amelia Bones, professional, stoic Amelia Bones, had removed her monocle and was polishing it with hands that weren't quite steady. "The prosecution rests," Harry said. Bones called a recess. 30 minutes. Harry sat on his bench and stared at the floor and breathed. Sirius was beside him instantly, one hand on his shoulder, solid and warm and real. "You're doing brilliantly," Sirius murmured. "It's working. Look at their faces, they're horrified. They're angry." "Not enough," Harry said. "Malfoy's planning something. Did you see his face?" "I saw it. He's not going to defend Dumbledore, no love lost there. But he might try to use this for his own purposes. Discredit Dumbledore to benefit the Death Eater agenda." "Let him try," James said, appearing beside them. "We can deal with Malfoy after. Right now, focus." "There's something else," Harry said, lowering his voice. "Dumbledore's not fighting. He admitted everything." "Why?" Lily materialized, her expression troubled. "Because he's not trying to win the legal case. He's trying to win the moral argument. He wants to lose gracefully, accept punishment, show remorse, and preserve the narrative that he was wrong but well-intentioned. That way, when Voldemort moves, everyone comes crawling back to him. We don't let him control that narrative, Harry said. The Horcrux information. We release it. Not here, not in public, the details are too dangerous. But we make it clear that we have the information, that we have a plan, and that we don't need him. Harry, Lily said carefully. Releasing Horcrux information in any forum risks it reaching Voldemort. If he knows we know, then he moves them. I know. But he can't move all of them quickly, some are in locations he can't easily access. And if we move first, the chamber doors burst open. Not figuratively. The heavy oak exploded inward, showering the closest observers with splinters. Through the gap came a wave of cold, biting, unnatural, soul-deep cold, and behind it, the screams. Dementors, Sirius snarled, on his feet, wand out. But it wasn't just Dementors. Through the shattered doors came figures in black robes and white masks, 6, 8, 10 of them, wands blazing. And behind them, walking with unhurried grace through the chaos, a tall figure in dark robes with red eyes that burned like coals in a pale, inhuman face. Voldemort had come to the Ministry. The chamber dissolved into pandemonium. Wizengamot members scrambled for exits. Reporters ran screaming. The protective wards around the courtroom, ancient, supposedly impenetrable, shattered like glass under Voldemort's casual wave. Harry was already moving. Not running. Not freezing. Moving forward. His holly wand was in his left hand before he'd consciously decided to draw it. His elder wand slid into his right from the arm holster. Dual-wielded, something he'd practiced for exactly 6 hours in the room of requirement and shouldn't have been able to do this well, except that the elder wand responded to his will as if it were an extension of his body rather than a tool. Harry! Sirius shouted behind him. Get the civilians out. Harry called back. McGonagall, shield the exits. Bones, get the Wizengamot members to safety. He didn't check if they obeyed. He was already casting. The holly wand produced a Patronus, not the stag, not this time. Something bigger. Something that blazed through the courtroom like a silver sun and drove the Dementors back in a shrieking mass, their ragged forms disintegrating at the edges. The Elder Wand sent a blast of raw force at the nearest Death Eater, catching the man mid-stride and launching him into the chamber wall with a crack that echoed. Voldemort watched. Red eyes fixed on Harry with an expression of interest. Amusement. Something alien that lived in the gap between human emotions. Harry Potter, Voldemort said, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade through silk. Lord Potter Peveril, I understand. You've been busy. Tom. Harry's voice was steady. Both wands leveled. The Patronus circled him like a guardian, silver light casting harsh shadows across Voldemort's face. Bad timing. I'm in the middle of something. I noticed. Tearing down Dumbledore, I approve. But I thought I'd accelerate the process. Voldemort raised his wand, you, 13 inches, phoenix feather. The brother to Harry's holly. With the old fool discredited and destroyed, who will they turn to? Not you. You're a child playing at lordship. When I walk out of here over Dumbledore's body, the wizarding world will have no choice but to kneel. You talk too much, Harry said, and attacked. The Elder Wand's spell was something his mother had taught him, not a curse, not a hex, but a banishment. An exorcism of dark magic, designed to tear at soul anchors. It hit Voldemort's shield and the Dark Lord staggered, actually staggered, his red eyes going wide for a fraction of a second. What? Harry didn't give him time to process. The holly wand followed with a reductor that turned the flagstones beneath Voldemort's feet to shrapnel. The Elder Wand sent a chain of transfigured stone serpents, because irony was a weapon too, that launched at Voldemort from 3 directions. The Holy Wand cast another Patronus, smaller, faster, sent like a missile directly at Voldemort's face. Voldemort recovered. Of course he did, he was still the most dangerous dark wizard alive, and surprise only lasted so long. His counterspells were vicious, elegant, faster than anything Harry had faced before. But Harry wasn't fighting alone. Down! James roared, and Harry dropped. A killing curse sailed over his head, not from Voldemort. A Death Eater flanking right, and Harry hadn't seen him. James had. Left shoulder, move now, Harry rolled. Another curse missed him by inches. He came up firing, Elder Wand at the Death Eater, Holy Wand maintaining the Patronus that was the only thing keeping the Dementors at bay. The Death Eater went down, hit by a spell that should have been beyond Harry's power level, but the Elder Wand made everything more powerful, more precise, more devastating. Behind him, Sirius was dueling two Death Eaters simultaneously, laughing like a madman, his fighting style wild and unpredictable and brutally effective. McGonagall had transformed the judges' benches into a wall of animated stone guardians that were methodically dismantling a third Death Eater's defenses. Amelia Bones was fighting beside her Aurors with cold precision, her spellwork economical and deadly. And Dumbledore stood in the center of the chaos, untouched, his own wand raised. But he wasn't fighting Voldemort. He was watching Harry fight Voldemort. Watching with an expression that Harry couldn't read and didn't have time to analyze. Albus! Voldemort screamed, finally acknowledging the old wizard. Come to die at last. Tom, Dumbledore said quietly. I think you'll find the situation has changed. Voldemort's red eyes flicked between Dumbledore and Harry. Between the old wizard who'd been his nemesis for decades and the boy who'd just hit him with magic he couldn't identify. Between the known threat and the unknown one. He chose Harry. The killing curse was green and fast and inevitable. Harry saw it coming, saw it leave Voldemort's wand with that distinctive flash, saw the air part around it, saw his own death approaching at the speed of light. The Elder Wand moved without conscious thought. Harry brought it up and commanded, not a shield, not a dodge, but something deeper, something that came from the Peveril ring and the stone against his chest and the cloak in his pocket. Something that said I am the master of death and death does not touch me without my permission. The killing curse struck the Elder Wand's tip and stopped. Not deflected. Not absorbed. Stopped. Held in place, a ball of green fire hovering an inch from Harry's wand, contained by a force that neither Harry nor Voldemort fully understood. The chamber went silent. Even the fighting paused. Every eye was on Harry Potter, holding a killing curse in stasis, his face illuminated by green fire that should have ended his life. No, Harry said, and pushed. The curse reversed. Not as a killing curse, transformed, transmuted, sent back as a wave of silver-white light that slammed into Voldemort's shield with the force of a freight train. The Dark Lord flew backward, crashed through the chamber wall, and vanished into the corridor beyond in a shower of stone and dust. Harry stood breathing, both wands raised, the Peveril ring blazing on his hand. From the corridor, a scream of rage, inhuman, terrible, and then the crack of disapparition. The Death Eaters vanished moments later, following their master, leaving behind 3 of their number unconscious on the chamber floor and a room full of shattered stone and stunned witnesses. Silence. Absolute, ringing silence. Then Amelia Bones said, very calmly, I believe we were in the middle of a hearing. It took an hour to restore the chamber. Repair crews from the Department of Magical Maintenance worked frantically while Aurors secured the perimeter and the injured were treated. The Wizengamot members who'd fled were rounded up and returned, none had been seriously hurt, thanks to the speed of Harry's response and the defensive actions of McGonagall and Bones. When the chamber was reassembled, scarred, patched, but functional, Amelia Bones called the hearing back to order. Her voice was steady. Her hands were not. Before we continue, she said, I want to acknowledge what just occurred. Lord Voldemort attacked the Ministry of Magic during a Wizengamot hearing. He was driven back by Lord Potter Peveril. She paused. Let that settle. I note for the record that it was a 15-year-old lord who protected this chamber while the majority of its adult members fled. I also note that Albus Dumbledore, while present and armed, did not engage Voldemort in combat. Dumbledore said nothing. He was back at the defense bench, looking smaller than Harry had ever seen him. Not physically, he was still tall, still imposing, but something in his bearing had contracted. Diminished. As if the room had just watched his narrative crumble in real time. He'd stood there while Harry fought. The whole Wizengamot had seen it. The defense has already declined to cross-examine, Bones continued. Mr. Dumbledore, do you wish to present additional testimony or evidence in your defense? Dumbledore stood slowly. Only this, he said. I have heard the testimony. I have seen the evidence. I have, he removed his spectacles. Cleaned them. Put them back on. I have no defense that will satisfy this body. I believed I was protecting a child. I was wrong. I believed the ends justified the means. They did not. I submit myself to the judgment of this court. You're not going to fight it, someone asked from the benches. Elphias Doge, old friend of Dumbledore's, his voice quavering. No, Elphias, Dumbledore said gently. Because everything they've said is true. And I'm tired of pretending otherwise. Bones nodded. Then we proceed to deliberation. The charges are, unlawful assumption of guardianship over a minor lord, equivalent to kidnapping under the Charter of 1307. Violation of a sealed magical testament. Financial mismanagement of a minor's estate. Abuse through negligence of a minor in his care. The full body will vote on each charge separately. The voting was swift. On the first charge, unlawful guardianship, the vote was 43-7. Guilty. On the second, violation of the testament, 47-3. Guilty. On the third, financial mismanagement, unanimous. 50-0. Guilty. On the fourth, abuse through negligence, the chamber was silent for a long moment before the votes were cast. 41-9. Guilty. Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore, Amelia Bones said, you have been found guilty on all charges by this body. Sentencing will reflect the severity of the offenses and your willingness to accept judgment. You are stripped of the following positions: Chief Warlock of the Wizengamot. Supreme Mugwump of the International Confederation of Wizards. Headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Dumbledore stood motionless. Your wand will not be snapped, Bones continued, given the active threat of Lord Voldemort and the demonstrated need for able defenders. However, you are placed under magical probation for a period of 20 years. You are forbidden from any contact with Lord Potter Peveril without his explicit consent. You are forbidden from holding any position of authority over minors. And you will make full financial restitution to the Potter estate for all unauthorized withdrawals, with interest, within 90 days. Additionally, Bones said, and something fierce entered her voice, this body orders an immediate review of the case of Sirius Orain Black. If Lord Black was denied a trial due to Dumbledore's negligence or intent, this body will see justice done. Mr. Black, she looked at Sirius, sitting in the witness gallery with tears streaming unashamedly down his face. You will have your trial. Today, if you're willing. Today, Sirius said hoarsely. Right now. Please. Bones nodded. Then we have one more matter to address. Lord Potter Peveril approached the bench. Harry stood. Walked forward. Looked up at Amelia Bones, who looked down at him with an expression that mixed professional respect with something personal and raw. This body owes you an apology, she said. Not just for what Dumbledore did, for what we allowed. This institution failed you. I don't say that lightly. As someone named in your parents' will, her voice cracked, just slightly. She recovered. As someone who could have been your guardian, had I been informed, I am personally sorry. Thank you, Harry said. But I don't need apologies. I need action. Voldemort just attacked the Ministry in broad daylight. He's not going to stop. I have the knowledge and the resources to fight him, and I'm going to, with or without this body's support. But I'd rather have it. You have it, Augusta Longbottom said from the benches. And mine, said Griselda Marchbanks. One by one, voices from the Wizengamot. Not all, not the silent contingent on the far benches where Malfoy sat, watching with those calculating grey eyes. But enough. More than enough. Then we have work to do, Harry said. Starting with Sirius's trial. And after that, we go to war. He turned and walked back to his bench. James and Lily flanked him, visible to the entire chamber now, glowing with that soft golden light. Sirius was on his feet, pulling Harry into another bone-crushing hug. You did it, Sirius whispered. You actually did it. We did it, Harry said. All of us. And in the defense bench, Albus Dumbledore sat alone, stripped of everything, title, position, authority, and watched the boy he tried to shape into a weapon walk away as something else entirely. Not a weapon. Not a pawn. Not a sacrifice. A lord. A leader. A son with his parents at his side. The hearing was over. The war was beginning. Sirius's trial lasted 45 minutes. Under Veritaserum, which he took willingly, eagerly, with the air of a man who'd been screaming the truth into a void for 13 years, he confirmed everything. Peter Pettigrew was the secret keeper. Peter Pettigrew was the spy. Peter Pettigrew had faked his death, framed Sirius, and was currently alive and serving Voldemort. The vote for exoneration was unanimous. Even the Death Eater contingent voted to clear him. They knew better than to defend Pettigrew when Voldemort himself had revealed the rat servitude. When the verdict came down, Sirius stood in the middle of the courtroom and breathed. Just breathed. Free, officially, finally, for the first time in 14 years. Harry watched him from the gallery and felt something settle in his chest, another piece falling into place. Lord Black, Bones said formally. You are cleared of all charges. Full compensation for wrongful imprisonment will be discussed at a later date. You are free to go. One more thing, Sirius said, his voice rough but strengthening. As Lord Black, I'd like to formally register my claim as godfather to Harry James Potter Peverell. Regardless of Harry's emancipated status, I want it on the record. I want everyone to know whose kid he is. So noted, Bones said. A small smile cracked her professional facade. Congratulations, Lord Black. Congratulations to Harry, Sirius said, turning to the gallery with a grin that transformed his gaunt face. He's the one who pulled this off. I just showed up and looked pretty. Laughter. Actual laughter in the Wizengamot chamber, warm, relieved, cathartic. Harry felt himself smiling despite everything. They walked out of the ministry together, Harry, Sirius, James and Lily visible at their sides. The atrium was packed with people who'd heard what happened. The crowd parted before them. Camera flashes exploded from every direction. Reporters screamed questions. Harry didn't answer any of them. He walked straight through, head up, ring gleaming, parents shining, Godfather at his shoulder. Out through the visitors' entrance, into grey London light, and gone. Tomorrow, the prophet would run the story. Tomorrow, the world would know everything. Tomorrow, Voldemort would respond. But tonight, Harry was going home. To Potter Manor. To the house his family had owned for 600 years, now unwarded from Dumbledore's Fidelius, now open, now his. Tonight, for the first time in his life, Harry Potter was going home. Chapter 4, The Greater Good Burns. Potter Manor rose from the Cotswolds hills like something that had grown rather than been built. 3 stories of honey-colored stone, covered in ivy that moved gently even when there was no wind, with windows that glowed amber as Harry approached, the house recognizing its master, warming itself, waking from a 15-year sleep. The grounds were vast. Rolling green that stretched to a distant tree line, a lake glinting silver in the fading light, gardens that had gone wild but not dead. The wards hit Harry the moment he crossed the property boundary, not hostile, not challenging. Welcoming. A wave of magic that washed over him like warm water, reading his blood, his intent, his identity, and finding him acceptable. Home, James said quietly. Harry stopped walking. Just stood there, at the end of the long gravel drive, looking at the house where his father had grown up. Where his grandparents had lived. Where he should have spent his childhood, running through those gardens, swimming in that lake, sleeping in a proper bed in a proper room with people who loved him. It's beautiful, Harry said. It's yours, Lily replied. Every stone of it. Sirius stood beside Harry, and he was looking at the manor with an expression of such naked longing that it hurt to witness. I spent half my summers here, he said. After I ran away from Grimmauld Place, your grandparents took me in. Charles and Doria. They gave me a room. Never asked me to leave. Which room? Harry asked. Third floor, east wing. Overlooked the lake. It's still yours, Harry said simply. Sirius made a sound. Didn't say anything. Just made a sound that meant more than words could carry. They walked up the drive together. The front door, massive oak, iron-banded, carved with the Potter crest, swung open before Harry reached it. Inside was warmth and light and the smell of old wood and magic, and Harry thought, this is what it should have felt like. This is what home is supposed to be. A pop. 2. 3. 4. House elves, 4 of them, materializing in the entrance hall with expressions of disbelief and joy. They were old, their skin papery and their ears drooping, but they stood straight and their eyes were bright. Master Potter, the eldest croaked. We waited. We kept the house. We waited. I'm sorry it took so long, Harry said, and meant it. I'm here now. We is knowing, the elf said, tears rolling freely. The house told us. Master's blood on the wards. Master is home. What's your name? Mipsy, Master. Head elf of Potter Manor these 63 years. These is Tilly, Cobb, and Wren. The other 3 elves bowed so low their noses touched the floor. Mipsy, Harry said, crouching down to the elf's level the way he always did with Dobby. There are going to be changes. People coming and going. I need the house ready for guests. But first, I need a room for Lord Black, 3rd floor east wing. And I need the master study. There's work to do tonight. Already done, Master. Mipsy felt Master coming an hour ago. Rooms is aired. Fires is lit. Study is ready. She straightened with obvious pride. Potter elves is not being idle elves. No, Harry said, smiling. Clearly not. The master study was everything Harry could have wanted. A large room on the ground floor, wood-paneled, with a fireplace tall enough to stand in and a desk that dominated the center like a ship's helm. Bookshelves covered every wall, not the Hogwarts library's ancient chaos, but organized, indexed, generations of Potter knowledge arranged with precision. A map of magical Britain hung on one wall, enchanted to show current ward status across known properties. A second, smaller pensieve sat on a side table. Harry settled into the chair behind the desk, his father's chair, his grandfather's chair, and felt the leather conform to him. The desk's surface was clear except for a single sealed envelope bearing the Gringotts crest. That'll be the full financial audit, James said, drifting to hover beside the fireplace. Ironclaw works fast. Harry broke the seal and spread the documents. Pages and pages of transactions, spanning 14 years. His eyes tracked the columns, dates, amounts, recipients, authorization codes. All signed with Dumbledore's name. 312,000 galleons, Lily said, reading over Harry's shoulder. That's what he moved out of the estate over 14 years. Monthly payments to the Order Fund, that accounts for most of it. Smaller amounts to Fig, Fletcher, and a dozen names I don't recognize. Anything going to the Dursleys? Harry asked. No, Lily said, her voice dark with implication. Nothing to the Dursleys. He didn't even pay them to keep you. They abused you for free. Some of these order payments went to legitimate operations, James said reluctantly. Safe houses, ward maintenance, intelligence gathering. He was fighting a war, or preparing for one. I don't think we can claim all of it was misuse. We don't need to, Harry said. The point isn't the money. The point is that he had no legal authority to spend it. Even if he'd used every canute to feed orphans, he still had no right. The will forbade him from guardianship. Everything that flowed from that guardianship, every withdrawal, every decision, every action taken in my name, is void. The restitution order gives him 90 days, Sirius said from the doorway. He'd found the third-floor room, changed into fresh clothes, actual Potter wardrobe, preserved perfectly by the elves, and looked more like himself than Harry had ever seen him. Think he can pay it? Dumbledore's personal fortune is modest, James said. He never cared about money. The Order Fund, which was Harry's money in the first place, was its own entity. He might have to sell property. The cottage in Godric's Hollow is his, I think. And there's a house in London. I don't care about the money, Harry said. I care about the precedent. I care about him never being able to do this again, to anyone. He set the Gringotts documents aside and pulled a fresh parchment toward him. Now. Horcruxes. The room's energy shifted. Sirius straightened in the doorway. James stopped pacing. Lily moved closer, her golden glow intensifying. Tell me everything, Harry said. All of them. Where they are, how to destroy them, and how fast we can move. Lily took a breath she didn't need. The diary, destroyed. You handled that at 12. The ring, Marvolo Gaunt's ring, which also holds the resurrection stone, which you now possess. The stone is separated from the Horcrux, the fragment was in the ring's setting, not the stone itself. It's still in the Gaunt shack, still cursed, still active. Dumbledore was planning to retrieve it this summer, James added. The curse on it would have destroyed his hand, slowly killing him over the course of a year. That was his plan, die on his own terms, sacrifice himself dramatically, and leave Harry to finish the hunt alone. Dramatic old bastard, Sirius muttered. The locket, Lily continued. Slytherin's locket. It was hidden in a cave, a sea cave on the coast where Tom Riddle tortured children from his orphanage. Dumbledore knew the location. What he didn't know is that the locket was already gone. A house elf named Creature, Sirius said sharply. My family's elf. Your brother's elf, really. Regulus Black took the locket from the cave in 1979. He died in the attempt, but Creature survived and brought the locket back to Grimmauld Place. It's there now, in the drawing room, hidden with the other Black family artifacts. Sirius was very still. Regulus. My brother retrieved a Horcrux. He died a hero, James said quietly. He ordered Creature to destroy it, but Creature couldn't. Horcruxes resist normal magic. It's sat there ever since, hurting that elf, driving him mad with guilt. Sirius closed his eyes. When he opened them, there was something fierce in them, a resolution. I'll get it. Tonight. Creature will give it to me. The cup of Hufflepuff, Lily said. It's in the Lestrange vault at Gringotts. That's difficult. Goblin security. I have a goblin ally, Harry said. Ironclaw. And the Peveril account gives me certain rights within the bank. I'll negotiate access. The diadem of Ravenclaw, James said, and a grim smile crossed his face. That one's easy. It's in Hogwarts. The room of requirement, the version that becomes a junk room. It's been there for 50 years. I've been in that room, Harry said, startled. Last year, hiding the DA meetings, it's there, James confirmed. You walked within 10 feet of it a dozen times. And Nagini, Lily said. The snake. She's always with Voldemort. She'll be the hardest to reach, we'll need him distracted or separated from her. That leaves, Harry looked down at his own hands. Me. You, Lily said softly. But not yet. After the others are destroyed. When only you and Nagini remain, we perform the extraction ritual. We pull the fragment from your scar without harming you. And then, one target. Nagini. And after Nagini, Voldemort himself becomes mortal. How soon can we move on the easy ones? Harry asked. The ring, tomorrow. The Gaunt Shack is unguarded except for the curse, and I know how to break it. The locket, tonight, if Sirius goes now. The diadem, whenever you return to Hogwarts. The cup will take time, Harry acknowledged. And Nagini requires a confrontation with Voldemort. But if we can destroy 4 Horcruxes this week, 3, Sirius corrected. I'll get the locket tonight, but we still need to destroy it. What destroys a Horcrux? Basilisk venom, Harry said. Which I have access to, the basilisk I killed is still in the Chamber of Secrets. Fiend fire. Or, he looked at the Elder Wand on the desk. Enough raw magical force, channeled with the right intent. The sword of Gryffindor absorbed basilisk venom when you killed the serpent, Lily said. It's goblin-made, it takes in only that which makes it stronger. The sword can destroy Horcruxes. Where's the sword now? Dumbledore's office, James said. Which he no longer occupies as of today. Harry smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Then I'll collect it when I go back for the diadem. Along with anything else he's been keeping that belongs to me. Sirius left for Grimmauld Place by Floo at 9:30. The manor's connection was old but functional, the elves had maintained it, like everything else, against the day a Potter would return. He stepped into Green Flame and vanished with a look of grim purpose, and Harry was left alone with his parents in the study. Not alone. The manor was full, the elves bustling, the house itself humming with a contentment that was almost audible. But in the study, with the fire crackling and the night pressing against the windows, it was quiet enough to think. The extraction ritual, Harry said without preamble. Tell me about it. Lily's expression shifted. She'd known this was coming. It's based on the same principle as my sacrifice at Godric's Hollow. Love magic, the most powerful force in existence, and the one Voldemort has never understood or been able to counter. I need specifics, Mum. Not reassurance. She smiled slightly at the "Mum," it still lit her up every time he said it. The Horcrux in your scar is anchored to your soul through the wound Voldemort created when he tried to kill you. It's parasitic, feeding on your magic, creating the connection between your minds. To remove it, we need to sever that anchor without damaging your own soul. And you can do that. The resurrection stone can touch the boundary between life and death. The fragment in your scar is dead, it's a piece of a soul that was torn away through murder. It doesn't belong in the living world. The stone can call it back to where it belongs, pull it through the boundary and dissolve it. But the fragment is attached to me, Harry said. If you pull it, you'll feel it, Lily said directly. It will feel like dying. Because part of what it's anchored to is your own experience of death, the killing curse that struck you as a baby. The stone will replay that moment. You'll experience it again. And then it will be over. Will I actually die? No. Lily's voice was absolute. Because I'll be there. My sacrifice, the love that saved you the first time, it's still in your blood, Harry. It's what kept you alive then, and it's what will keep you alive during the extraction. The fragment will be pulled free. You'll remain. You're certain. I am certain. Harry nodded. He'd needed to hear it, not the vague reassurances Dumbledore would have given, all gentle smiles and implied nobility in death. He'd needed the mechanism. The logic. The certainty that his mother, who had designed the magic that saved his life, could design the magic that would finish the job. After the other Horcruxes, Harry said. After the others, Lily confirmed. The fire crackled. Harry leaned back in his chair and let himself feel, just for a moment, the strangeness and the rightness of being here. In this house. In this chair. With his parents present, planning his survival instead of his martyrdom. "Mom," he said. "Dad." "Yeah." James said. "Thank you. For fighting for me. I know you couldn't before. But now, Harry." James's voice was thick. "We would burn down the entire world for you. And we very nearly are." Sirius returned at midnight, carrying a heavy gold locket that thrummed with an oily, nauseating magic that Harry could feel across the room. He set it on the desk and stepped back quickly, wiping his hands on his robes. "Creature gave it up," Sirius said. "Didn't even fight me. When I told him I was going to destroy it, that I was going to finish what Regulus started, he just handed it over. Then he started crying. 63 years he's been carrying that guilt." "Is he all right?" Lily asked. "Better than he's been in decades, I think. I told him about Regulus, what he did, how brave it was. I don't think anyone ever told him that before. Sirius ran a hand through his hair. "I've been terrible to that elf. I hated him because he reminded me of my family. But he was loyal to my brother until it killed him. I owe him better." Harry looked at the locket. Even at a distance, it radiated wrongness, a cold, slithering malice that made his skin crawl. The Horcrux inside it was aware, in some primitive way. Angry at being disturbed. "We need the basilisk venom," Harry said. "Or the sword. We can't destroy this with regular magic. There might be another way." Lily was staring at the locket with a researcher's intensity, her head tilted, her lips moving silently. "The Elder Wand, Harry. Combined with the Peveril Ring's death magic. A Horcrux is an unnatural anchor to life, it refuses death. If you channel enough death aspect magic through it, the ring can do that. The ring commands the boundary. It can push things across as easily as it pulls them back. Turn the stone's power outward instead of inward, force the soul fragment across the boundary instead of calling a spirit back from it." Harry picked up the Elder Wand. Felt it hum eagerly against his palm. He turned the Peveril Ring on his finger, feeling its cold weight, its ancient authority. "Put the locket on the desk," Harry said. "Everyone stand back." Sirius retreated to the doorway. James and Lily drew back, watching. Harry stood over the locket, Elder Wand raised, ring hand extended toward the cursed object. He could feel it, the fragment inside. Like a heartbeat that wasn't his own. A pulse of alien life, stubborn and parasitic, clinging to the physical world through sheer dark will. "Go," Harry said to it quietly. "You don't belong here." He pushed with the ring. Not a spell, a command. The Peveril Lord ordering death to do its work. The ring blazed cold on his finger, silver light streaming from the Hallows symbol into the locket. The Elder Wand amplified it, added force, intent, magical weight that tipped the scales. The locket screamed. Not audibly, magically. A psychic shriek that drove into Harry's mind like a spike. He gritted his teeth and pushed harder. The ring's light intensified. The locket's lid burst open, revealing a pulsing black mass inside, the Horcrux fragment, visible and writhing, trying to escape. Shadows erupted from the locket. Voices, Voldemort's voice, whispering, hissing, promising, threatening. Images, dark things, designed to find Harry's fears and exploit them. Harry ignored them. They were nothing. Shadows of a broken soul, powerless against a wizard who'd already faced the real thing and won. Go, Harry said again, and the ring's light became blinding. The black mass thrashed, shrank, and then, with a final wail that vibrated in the stones of the manor itself, dissolved. Pulled across the boundary. Sent to wherever dead things went. The locket fell still. Empty. Just metal and gem now, beautiful and ancient and completely inert. Harry lowered his wand. His hand was shaking slightly. The ring dimmed to its usual subtle glow. "Two down," he said. Sirius was staring at him from the doorway. "Harry. What you just did, that wasn't, there's no spell for that." "No," Harry agreed. "There isn't. But there's a ring, and a wand, and a title that gives me authority over the boundary between life and death. Turns out that's fairly useful against objects that refuse to die." "Fairly useful," Sirius repeated faintly. "Right. Yes. Fairly useful. I need a drink." Wednesday morning brought owls. Dozens of them, flooding through the manor's windows with the dawn, carrying letters, invitations, pleas, demands, and threats. Harry sat at the breakfast table with a stack of correspondence that would have buried him if he'd tried to read it all. The Prophet's front page told him everything he needed to know about the world's reaction. Dumbledore found guilty on all charges, stripped of all titles. Boy who lived revealed as Lord of two ancient houses. Voldemort attacks Wizengamot, driven back by Potter. Peveril. Sirius Black exonerated, demands compensation. Rita Skeeter's piece ran on page 3, the exclusive Harry had promised her, delivered through Hermione the previous night. It was, Harry had to admit, brilliantly written. Skeeter had a gift for turning fact into narrative, and the story she'd woven, the orphan lord, the stolen inheritance, the corrupt guardian, the triumphant return, was the kind of thing that would dominate public conversation for weeks. Good. Let it dominate. Let everyone talk about Dumbledore's fall. Let Voldemort wonder what else Harry knew, what else Harry could do. "This one's from the minister," Sirius said, sorting through the stack. "Fudge wants a meeting. Probably wants to align himself with you now that you're popular. Bin it. This one's from the Greengrass family. Lord Greengrass offers his support and subtly suggests a marriage contract between you and his eldest daughter. Bin it. This one's from, oh." Sirius went quiet. "Remus." Harry looked up. Sirius was holding a letter written on cheap parchment in familiar, careful handwriting. "Read it," Harry said. Sirius opened it. "Read silently." His expression cycled through complicated territory, guilt, affection, something that ached. "He says he saw the Prophet. He says he's coming, today, if we'll have him. He says," Sirius swallowed. "He says he's sorry. For not being there. For not fighting harder for custody. For accepting Dumbledore's judgment when he should have. Tell him to come," Harry said immediately. "Tell him we don't need apologies. Tell him there's a room for him here if he wants it. Harry, he was named in my parents' will. He was their friend. He's your friend. And he was lied to, same as everyone else. Tell him to come home." Sirius nodded, already reaching for parchment and quill. His hand was shaking. James, hovering near the window, said nothing. But the look on his face as he watched Sirius write, it was the look of a man watching something broken start to mend. The gaunt shack was exactly as unpleasant as Harry expected. They went at noon, Harry, James, and Lily, with Sirius as physical backup and Dobby as transport. The shack sat in a copse of dead trees outside the village of Little Hangleton, its walls rotting, its roof half collapsed, surrounded by an atmosphere of decay and dark magic that was palpable 50 yards out. "The ring is in there," Lily said. "Under the floorboards, near the hearth." Dumbledore planned to pick it up bare-handed, he was drawn to the resurrection stone. The curse on the ring is a withering hex, keyed to activate on skin contact. It would have spread from his hand to his entire body over approximately a year. You're saying Dumbledore would have touched a random ring in Voldemort's ancestral home without checking for curses first? Sirius said skeptically. The compulsion on the ring is specific to the Resurrection Stone, Lily explained. It preys on the desire to see dead loved ones. For Dumbledore, that would be his sister, Ariana. The compulsion would have overwhelmed his caution. It wouldn't affect Harry. Harry already has us, James said simply. The compulsion works by promising what you don't have. He has nothing to promise Harry. Harry approached the shack. The wards were crude but nasty, Voldemort's early work, powerful but unsubtle. Compared to the protections Harry had already overcome in his life, the graveyard, the Department of Mysteries, the Triwizard tasks, they were almost insultingly simple. He dismantled them in 4 minutes, methodically, using techniques from the Potter grimoire that were designed for exactly this kind of work. Inside, the shack was dark and foul. Harry crossed to the hearth, knelt, and pried up the loose floorboard his mother indicated. There, in the earth beneath, a small gold box. And inside the box, a ring. Marvolo Gaunt's ring. Heavy gold, set with a black stone, cracked down the middle, the Hallows symbol barely visible. The Horcrux pulsed inside it, aware, malevolent. Harry didn't touch it. He levitated it out of the box with his holly wand, set it on the cracked hearthstone, and drew the Elder Wand. Same process as the locket. The ring's command. The boundary authority. The push, death claiming what belonged to it. This time was harder. The ring fought back. It was older than the locket, more deeply anchored, layered with Voldemort's earliest protections. The withering curse activated in response to the attack, lashing out blindly, seeking living flesh. Harry's shield held, barely. The Elder Wand sang with the strain of channeling so much death aspect magic. But it worked. The fragments screamed and shattered and dissolved, pulled across the boundary into whatever void awaited it. The crack in the stone sealed itself. The gold band lost its sickly gleam and became just a ring, old, battered, but clean. 3, Harry said, pocketing the purified ring. 3 down. The withering curse is gone too, Lily observed, examining the ring with her researcher's gaze. Destroying the Horcrux disrupted the enchantment matrix. The ring is safe to handle now. Then we go back for the diadem, Harry said. Today. Hogwarts. Hogwarts was different when Harry returned. Not physically, the castle was the same as always, ancient and grand and slightly too aware for a building. But the atmosphere had shifted. Students stared openly as Harry walked through the entrance hall. Whispered in clusters. Pointed at the Peveril ring on his finger as though it were a second lightning scar. Umbridge was nowhere to be seen. Harry learned later that she'd been reassigned by the Ministry within hours of the hearing, Fudge scrambling to distance himself from his own appointee now that the political winds had changed. The pink-toadish regime that had dominated Hogwarts all year had evaporated overnight, leaving behind a power vacuum that the remaining staff were frantically trying to fill. McGonagall met Harry in the entrance hall. She looked like she hadn't slept, but her eyes were sharp and her posture was steel. Lord Potter Peveril, she said. Welcome back. I've been named acting headmistress pending a formal appointment. Congratulations, Professor. Don't congratulate me yet. I've inherited a school in chaos, a staff divided over the hearing's outcome, and a student body that's been reading the Prophet all morning and has opinions about everything. She paused. Also, there's a Ravenclaw diadem that I understand you need from the Room of Requirement. Harry blinked. How, your mother sent me an owl at 6 this morning, McGonagall said dryly. She's very organized. She really is. Can you clear the corridor for me? I'd rather not have an audience. Already done. 7th floor is sealed. Do what you need to do. Harry climbed to the 7th floor. The corridor was empty, silent, sealed by McGonagall's authority, the new headmistress's word carrying full weight. He paced before the tapestry of Barnabas the Barmy. I need the room where things are hidden. I need the room where things are hidden. I need the room where things are hidden. The door appeared. Harry pushed it open. The room of hidden things was vast, a cathedral of lost objects, piled in mountains and valleys that stretched to impossible distances. Harry could have spent weeks in here and not found what he was looking for. But he didn't need weeks. He had his mother. Straight ahead, Lily said, appearing at his side. 400 paces. Turn left at the cabinet full of bottles. Past the old broomstick pile. There's a bust of an ugly wizard on a table, the diadem is on the bust's head. Harry moved fast, navigating the maze of junk with purpose. Broken furniture. Ancient textbooks. Dark objects that hissed and rattled as he passed. A vanishing cabinet that thrummed with half-active magic, he noted its location and moved on. There. A marble bust, blistered, warped, wearing a tarnished tiara. Ravenclaw's diadem. Even from 10 feet away, Harry could feel the Horcrux inside it, that same oily wrongness, weaker than the locket had been but unmistakable. He didn't hesitate. Elder wand raised, ring hand extended. The push, the command, death reaching for what belonged to it. This one was the easiest yet. The diadem's fragment was thin, attenuated, it had been hidden here for decades without anything to sustain it, weakening slowly. Harry's command tore through it like paper. The fragment didn't even scream. It just dissolved. Faded. Slipped across the boundary with barely a whisper. "For," Harry said. He picked up the purified diadem, beautiful, silver, inscribed with Rowena Ravenclaw's famous motto, "Wit beyond measure is man's greatest treasure." It hummed with a different kind of magic now, not dark, not parasitic. Old. Clean. The magic of its original creation, free at last from the contamination. That should go back to Hogwarts, Lily said. To Ravenclaw's legacy. It doesn't belong to us. I'll give it to McGonagall, Harry agreed. He tucked it carefully inside his robes. Now. Dumbledore's office, the sword. The office is empty, Lily confirmed. Dumbledore removed his personal effects last night. But the sword of Gryffindor belongs to the school, not to him, it should still be there. The gargoyle guarding the headmaster's office leaped aside without asking for a password. It recognized authority, and Harry carried more of that than any password could convey. The moving staircase spiraled upward and deposited him in the office itself, stripped bare compared to Harry's previous visits. The silver instruments were gone. The personal books were gone. Fawkes's perch stood empty, the phoenix had apparently departed with its former master. What remained was the furniture, Hogwarts property, and in a glass case behind the desk, gleaming ruby red and silver, the sword of Gryffindor. Harry opened the case. The sword came to his hand like a familiar creature, its grip conforming to his palm. He could feel the basilisk venom in the blade, a deadly resonance that made the metal sing. That's 5 options for Horcrux destruction, James said. The sword, the ring's authority, basilisk venom directly, fiend fire, and the Elder Wand's force. We're spoiled for choice. We need to plan for Nagini, Harry said, sheathing the sword in a conjured scabbard. She's the last external one. After her, it's just me. Nagini stays close to Voldemort, James said. Getting to her means getting to him. But after yesterday, after what you did in the Wizengamot chamber, he's going to be cautious. He felt that magic. He doesn't understand it, and that terrifies him. Good, Harry said. Let him be terrified. But I'm not going to wait for him to come to me. I'm going to draw him out. How? Lily asked. Harry looked around the empty office. At the vacant perch. At the bare walls where Dumbledore's portraits of previous headmasters still hung, watching him with painted eyes. At the desk where, for decades, one man had sat and moved pieces on a chessboard that included Harry's life. He attacked the ministry because he thought the chaos was an opportunity, Harry said slowly. He expected Dumbledore and me to be at each other's throats, weakened, divided, easy targets. Instead, he found me ready and willing to fight. That surprised him. He'll want to reassess, regroup. He'll pull back. He'll wait. So we don't let him wait, Sirius said. He'd followed Harry up to the office, of course he had. We force his hand. We take something from him, Harry said. Something he can't afford to lose. Not a Horcrux, he doesn't know we're hunting those. Something else. Something personal. His followers, James said. Specifically, his inner circle. If we start dismantling his Death Eaters, he'll have to respond. He can't maintain control of his army if his lieutenants are being picked off. We know who they are, Lily added. We watched them for 14 years. We know who's marked, who's under Imperius, who's there voluntarily. We can feed that information to Amelia Bones and the DMLE. Harry nodded slowly. A campaign. Not a single dramatic confrontation, a systematic dismantling. Take his pieces off the board one by one until Voldemort had to act. Until he had to come himself, with Nagini, into a trap of Harry's choosing. We need Amelia Bones, Harry said. We need her fully briefed, on the Horcruxes, on the Death Eaters, on everything. She's the law. If we're going to do this right, if we're going to be better than Dumbledore, we do it through legitimate channels where possible and overwhelming force where necessary. And where legitimate channels fail? Sirius asked. Harry looked at his godfather. At the man who'd spent 12 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit because the system had failed. At the ring on his own finger, claimed because the system couldn't protect him. Then we do what we have to do, Harry said. But we don't become what we're fighting. That's the line. That's always the line. Remus Lupin arrived at Potter Manor that evening. He looked awful. Thin, shabby, grey before his time, the wolf's toll was written in every line of his face. But when he stepped through the flue and saw James and Lily standing in the entrance hall, something crumbled in his expression that had been holding him together for 15 years. Moony, James said softly. Remus Lupin, werewolf, professor, last marauder standing, fell to his knees in the entrance hall of Potter Manor and wept. It wasn't a dignified grief. It was the ragged, shaking, overwhelming release of a man who'd been carrying loss alone for over a decade. Sirius was beside him in an instant, arms around him, and they held each other on the floor while James and Lily watched with expressions that held no pity, only love, and the grief of not being able to physically embrace their friend. Harry stood back. Let it happen. This wasn't his moment, it was theirs. Eventually, Remus raised his head. His eyes were red, his face wrecked. He looked at Harry and said, I'm sorry. I should have been there. I should have fought for you. Stop, Harry said. Everyone keeps apologizing to me. I don't need apologies. I need allies. I need people who'll fight with me, not for my forgiveness, but because it's the right thing to do. Can you do that? Remus climbed to his feet with Sirius's help. Looked at Harry, really looked, the way a wizard with enhanced senses looked, and something shifted in his expression. Recognition. Respect. You're not a child, Remus said. Not legally. Not anymore. No. I mean, Remus shook his head. You feel different. You're magic, he's Lord Peveril, James said. Master of the boundary between life and death, or near enough. He's destroyed 4 Horcruxes in 2 days. He's not the scared boy you taught in 3rd year, Moony. Remus looked at Harry with wide eyes. Then he straightened. Squared his shoulders. And nodded. What do you need from me? Remus asked. Your contacts, Harry said immediately. The werewolf packs, Voldemort's been recruiting them. Greyback's been promising them freedom and respect under a new regime. I can actually deliver that. The old werewolf legislation, it can be changed. I have 2 Wisengamot seats. I have the political capital to push reform. You want me to turn the packs, Remus said slowly. I want you to give them a better offer. Real rights. Real protections. In exchange for not fighting for the man who sicked Greyback on children. Remus was quiet for a long moment. Then a smile crossed his face, not a large one, but real. You know, Dumbledore asked me to do the same thing last year. Go to the packs as a spy. Pretend to be one of them. No offer of actual reform, just intelligence gathering. I'm not Dumbledore, Harry said. No, Remus agreed. You're not. By Thursday night, Harry's war council had assembled. They met in the manor's dining room, the long table that could seat 30 occupied by a smaller but formidable gathering. Harry at the head. Sirius and Remus flanking him. James and Lily hovering, present, visible, participating. Amelia Bones, who'd accepted Harry's invitation with grim professionalism. Augusta Longbottom, radiating iron-willed competence. Neville, quiet but present, sitting beside his grandmother with a set to his jaw that reminded Harry of the boy who'd stood up to Malfoy in first year. And, unexpectedly, Kingsley Shacklebolt. The senior Auror had come on Amelia's recommendation, the best combat wizard in the DMLE, she'd called him. He'd listened to Harry's plan with the expression of a man who'd been waiting for someone to actually do something instead of just reacting, and had pledged his wand without hesitation. The immediate priorities, Harry said, standing at the head of the table with the manor's enchanted map displayed behind him. Voldemort has 1 remaining Horcrux outside of his own body, the snake, Nagini. Plus the fragment in my scar, which we have a plan to remove. Nagini is the final barrier to his mortality. Once she's destroyed, Voldemort can be killed permanently. How do we get to the snake? Kingsley asked. His deep voice resonated with professional interest, a problem to be solved, not a reason to panic. We draw Voldemort out, Harry said. Not by threatening him directly, by destroying his infrastructure. His Death Eaters. His recruitment pipeline. His financial support. We make it impossible for him to operate from the shadows, and he's forced into the open. I have 43 confirmed Death Eaters on my list, Amelia Bones said, producing a scroll. Another 20 suspected. If we move simultaneously, dawn raids, full aura response, we can decapitate his command structure in a single morning. He'll retaliate, Augusta said. He'll try, Harry said. But retaliate against what? Against a lord with ancestral wards. Against the ministry with full aura deployment. Against Hogwarts with a new headmistress who isn't playing politics. He's strong, but he's not invincible. And he's never fought someone who wasn't afraid of him. You're not afraid of him, Kingsley observed. Not a question. He killed my parents in front of me. He used my blood to resurrect himself. He's haunted my dreams for 4 years. I fought him 2 days ago and sent him running. Harry met Kingsley's eyes steadily. I'm not afraid of him. I'm angry at him. That's different, and it's worse, for him. The raids, Bones said, pulling the conversation back to tactics. Timing. We need intelligence confirmation. Some of these suspects haven't been verified in months. I can help with that, Lily said. James and I, we can observe. We're spirits. We can go anywhere, see anything, pass through any ward. Give us your list of suspects and we'll confirm who's active, who's meeting with Voldemort, and where they're operating from. Bones looked at the spirit of Lily Potter with an expression caught between professional unease and pragmatic appreciation. Spectral intelligence gathering. That's unprecedented. Everything about this situation is unprecedented, James pointed out. Might as well use it. 2 days, Harry said. Give my parents 2 days to confirm targets. Then we move. Simultaneously, across the country. Leave Voldemort nothing to retreat to. And when he comes for you? Augusta asked bluntly. Because he will. Everything you're doing points him at you. When he comes for me, Harry said, I'll be ready. I'll have the sword of Gryffindor for Nagini. I'll have the Elder Wand and the Peveril Ring for him. And I'll have something he's never faced before, a family that refuses to let me fight alone. The table was quiet. Not uncomfortable silence, the silence of people recognizing a turning point. A decision that, once made, couldn't be unmade. I'm in, Kingsley said simply. As am I, Augusta stated. The DMLE is at your disposal, Bones said. Within legal bounds, which you seem committed to respecting. Moony? Sirius asked. I'll reach out to the Pax tonight, Remus said. No promises, but they're tired of Greyback. If the offer is genuine, it's genuine, Harry said. Draft the legislation. I'll sponsor it through the Wisengamot the moment this is over. Remus nodded. Something kindled in his tired eyes, hope, maybe. The kind that came from being trusted for the first time in years. Then we're agreed, Harry said. 2 days of intelligence. Then we move. The era of hiding and reacting and hoping Dumbledore has a plan, it's over. We're the plan now. He sat down. The meeting shifted into logistics, Bones assigning Auror teams, Kingsley mapping raid routes, Augusta coordinating political cover in the Wisengamot. James and Lily began reviewing the target list, planning their reconnaissance. Harry sat at the head of the table and watched his people work. Not Dumbledore's people, his. Freely chosen, clearly motivated, operating with full information rather than manipulated fragments. It was, he realized, what the Order of the Phoenix should have been from the beginning. What it could have been, if its leader hadn't been more concerned with control than with trust. Sirius leaned close. You all right? Yeah, Harry said. I'm good. You know this is going to get worse before it gets better. I know. You know Voldemort's going to come at you with everything he has. I'm counting on it. Sirius studied him for a moment. Then he leaned back, crossed his arms, and grinned. You know what? I almost feel sorry for him. Don't, Harry said. He had choices. He made them. Now he lives with the consequences. He paused. Well. He dies from them, actually. Sirius barked a laugh. Several heads turned. Harry didn't smile, not outwardly. But something warm settled in his chest. 2 days. Then the war would end, one way or another. And Harry Potter was going to make absolutely certain it ended on his terms. The manor was quiet at 2 in the morning. Sirius and Remus had retired, sharing the third-floor east wing like the old days, their low voices audible through the walls as they caught up on 15 years of lost time. The elves had banked the fires and dimmed the lights. Even the house itself seemed to doze, its magic settling into a content, watchful hum. Harry sat in the study alone. Not working, just sitting. Thinking. Tomorrow his parents would leave to scout Death Eater positions. They'd be gone, not permanently, not beyond reach, but out of his immediate presence. It was the first time since the stone had brought them back that he'd face a day without them beside him. It shouldn't have mattered. He was 15, emancipated, lorded, powerful enough to drive off Voldemort in single combat. He shouldn't need his parents hovering at his shoulder. But he did. That was the truth of it, the quiet, aching truth beneath all the lordship and the strategy and the righteous fury. He was 15 and he'd just gotten his parents back, and in 2 days he was going to face a war, and some part of him was still the boy in the cupboard who just wanted someone to tell him it was going to be okay. You're thinking too loud. Lily materialized in the chair opposite the desk. She looked at him the way only mothers could, seeing past the armor, past the titles, straight to the scared kid underneath. "I'm fine," Harry said. "You're not. And that's all right. You don't have to be fine all the time, Harry. You don't have to be strong every moment. There's a war coming. In 2 days. I have to, in 2 days, you'll be ready. Right now, it's 2 in the morning and you're a boy who's been through more in 1 week than most people face in a lifetime. Let yourself feel it." Harry was quiet for a long time. The fire crackled. Somewhere in the house, a clock chimed the half-hour. "I keep thinking about the cupboard," he said finally. "About all those years. And I keep thinking, what if I'd had this? This house, you and Dad, Sirius free, Remus around. What would I be?" "Different," Lily said honestly. "Happier. Less angry. Possibly less driven. You fight so hard because you were made to fight for everything. In a kinder world, you might have been gentler. Do you wish I was gentler? I wish you hadn't needed to be hard. But I'm proud of who you are. The hardness isn't all of you, it's armor, and you chose to wear it. Underneath it, you're still the boy who makes friends with house elves and names his owl Hedwig and forgives people who probably don't deserve it." Harry smiled. "Small, tired, real. I should sleep." "You should. Big days coming." "Mom." "Yeah. I love you. I know I only just got to know you. But I love you. Both of you." Lily's glow brightened. Warmth filled the study like sunrise. "We love you too, Harry. More than death could hold. More than anything." He went upstairs. Slept in the master bedroom of Potter Manor, in a bed that was soft and warm and his, with wards older than England humming in the walls around him and the knowledge that he was protected, truly, deeply, finally protected. And in his dreams, for the first time in months, there was no graveyard. No snake's eye view of dark corridors. No scar burning, no whispered threats. Just peace. Tomorrow, the war. But tonight, peace.